The New York Times, the editorial board has called for Joe Biden to drop out of the race. It seems like, I'm going to tell you, we're seeing a lot in the press that they want Joe Biden to drop out. There's serious questions being asked of the Democrats and the Biden campaign and Kamala Harris. Here's an interesting one for you. One of the op-eds in the New York Times calling for Joe Biden to drop out because of his debate performance has a date in its URL from the 25th, meaning they started writing this a couple days before the debate actually happened. They knew what was coming, but perhaps they hoped this was their test. And a lot of people said this was like a trial balloon. Will he be able to do this? And now we are seeing basically across the board, there's like probably two people who are claiming Joe Biden did well. And it's Harry Sisson, who probably didn't even watch the debate. He just gets a note card and then he tweets whatever he's told to tweet. But everybody else is saying, a lot of these Democrats are saying CNN did a bad job. Others are just saying outright, it is time to find somebody else. So that is massive. Then we have huge news from the Supreme Court. We've got the J6ers. The obstruction charges are basically overruled by the Supreme Court, saying you can't charge people with this. And then we've got the Chevron defense has been overturned. This is precedent. Basically, that said federal agencies can make rules for themselves. Two examples you may be familiar with is when the ATF said, you know what, we're going to ban pistol braces because we interpret it how we want. And then, of course, COVID vaccine mandates under OSHA. We interpret the law how we want now. The courts will have to interpret it, and that's the way it should be. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, tonight's show is brought to you by MyPillow.com. You guys know we're big fans of Mike Lindell. Head over to MyPillow.com. Use promo code TIM and pick up all of your awesome stuff. It's not just pillows. Now, all of you out there, you know Mike Lindell. MyPillow and Mike, they no longer have access to those big box stores, so they were hurting for a while. But, Mike tells us he's turning things around. He's been hit big by cancel culture, and now they're going to pass these savings on to you. When Mike and MyPillow started, it was just a problem solution, one product company. Since then, with the help of its dedicated employees, they now have hundreds of products some of you may not even know about. To get the word out, they're having a $25 extravaganza. 2-pack multi-use MyPillows, $25. MyPillow sandals, $25. 6-pack towel sets, $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels, $25. And the first time ever, MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, any size, any loft level, $25. It's an amazing offer. It won't last long. So go to MyPillow.com. Use promo code TIM. They got a phone number. It's 800-925-9096. Shout out to Mike Lindell. He's going to be hanging out with us at the RNC as well. So don't forget, go to Timcast.com. Get your tickets to the RNC live event Thursday, July 18th in Milwaukee. We're going to be there. We'll be there with Mike. And then also, don't forget, I Was Gonna Be by Rachel Holt, available for download, song.link/Rachel. It's a pro-life song. If this is something you care about, go to song.link/Rachel. Get the song now on iTunes and support people who are building culture. Maybe we'll see that pro-life song hit the Billboard charts. That being said, again, timcast.com, click join us. No members only tonight. But as a member, you are supporting us directly, and we rely on your support as members to make sure this show keeps running. But I will stress again, click that banner. If you're in the Milwaukee area, you want to hang out live. We're going to have a live audience with tickets available at the RNC. It's going to be huge. We got Mike Lindell, Luke Rutkowski, Hannah Claire Brimelow, Libby Emmons. I will be there, of course. Many other guests throughout the week. We hope to see you there. Smash that like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight, we got a lot of people joining us tonight. But first and foremost, we have Morgonn McMichael.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for having me back, Tim. I am a Turning Point USA contributor, Gen Z culture and political commentator, and I'm just excited to talk about all things that went down at the debate last night and all of our other fun stories. So thanks for having me back.
Right on. We also have, well, should I use your real name or your pseudonym? We have Adam Johnson.
That's me, the lectern guy.
Lectern guy.
Yeah.
And then Alex fell asleep. He's been on too many shows. He's been on
sorry.
his third show.
This
for us.
My Pillow is so comfortable. I just fall right to sleep. And don't forget those My Pillow sandals. They also feel like pillows on your feet. So
he's trying to get that
What
promo
about
code now.
those
Huh?
Giza
Yeah.
Dream Streets?
they're great. I mean, they don't chafe you when you're sweating at night. They're just very comfortable. We love My Pillow.
I've heard you're not a legitimate conservative influencer until you have a MyPillow code.
Yeah,
So.
Mike
Yeah,
Lindell.
Interesting. Or political. I know not everyone in this room identifies as conservatives. I'm Hannah Claire Brimelow. I'm a writer for SCNR.com. I'm happy to be back here. Happy Friday to everyone who's listening. Hi, Serge.
Yo, what's up?
All right, well, here's the big story. Let's roll. The New York Times. To serve his country, President Biden should leave the race, from the editorial board of the New York Times. Ladies and gentlemen, if I were to pull up every single corporate press journalist, columnist, or otherwise. We would not be able to get through all of their opinions on the debate in one show. So we're going to go with the New York Times because this one dropped at 6 p.m. and it sent shockwaves. Look, everybody knew. Anybody paying attention knew this was going to happen. But you know what's really fascinating about this? And I'll read a little bit just in a second. Is that we all knew, you knew, I knew, Alex knew, Morgan knew, Adam knew, Hannah Claire knew, Serge knew. And everybody paying attention knew that Joe Biden's brain is broken. And in the lead up to this debate, what were they saying? Behind closed doors, he's sharp as a tack. And there were people out there who live in Wally World and MSNBC World who genuinely believed that they were cheap fakes. They kept trying to say, Joe Biden's fully with it. These are cheap fakes manipulated to make you think he's not with it. And then we watched the debate. The New York Times says, President Biden has repeatedly and rightfully described the stakes in this November's presidential election as nothing less than the future of American democracy. Donald Trump has proved himself to be a significant jeopardy to that democracy, an erratic and self-interested figure unworthy of the public trust. He systematically attempted to undermine the integrity of elections, blah, blah, blah. At Thursday's debate, the president needed to convince the American public that he was equal to the formidable demands of the office he is seeking to hold for another term. Voters, however, cannot be expected to ignore what was instead plain to see. Mr. Biden is not the man he was 4 years ago. I'm gonna edit this and write, it was plain to see his brain don't work. That's what we saw. His brain don't work. Everybody realized it. And it's unfortunate if everybody was watching the likes of, Timcast IRL Crowder, people like Styx, Viva Fry, etc. We would all have known years ago Biden ain't with it. But now we're here.
Well, I think part of it is a testament to the fact that Democrats really believe their own propaganda. I mean, they really believe the things that their own establishment puts out, including, no, Joe Biden is totally together and this is just a right-wing conspiracy, that things are not the same. The fact that there is so much shock. It's not just a couple people who are like, yeah, okay, it looks bad. It's everyone is like, wow, as it turns out, he really isn't able to speak properly and able to hold down this debate. I mean, he had this other speech today where he acknowledged, I'm not the young man I was, whatever else. And I heard some commentators be like, well, he looked more energetic today at his own rally. But so much of being the president is being able to command the moment that you're in. And he obviously failed. But it's only Democrats that are surprised because they're the only ones who actually believed there was a chance that this was a conspiracy theory. Or
I fixed it real quick. So I fixed it. So it now reads, it could not ignore what was plain to see. Mr. Biden has no brain anymore, and he should be in hospice.
Well, look at that. The New York Times is now credible.
So, but I do have to clarify because people won't understand on the internet. Nothing is real. I literally just changed that right now as a joke. Please, it's not real.
I just want to.
Thinks it's real. They're smoking.
They will though.
Yeah,
They will though.
They will think it's real. I just, what's sad to me is like the cognitive decline of Biden has been so evident over the last 4 years, and the amount of people that are surrounded by him. You have obviously Jill Biden, who is the puppet master, it seems like, of all of this. But look at how many people are just around him, working for him, and they refuse to acknowledge to the American people, like they are willingly lying to the American people that our sitting president is incapable of even having a debate. And I don't even think they realized how bad it was going to be last night until he opened his mouth and couldn't even get a coherent sentence out. And like, Tim, you were saying, the only positive person I can see is Harry Sisson, who is just shilling for the DNC. I genuinely hope he's a millionaire.
Dude, the betting odds for Biden have tanked like 40%. He's in the teens now. And Harry Sisson is like, wow, he crushed it. And it's like, dude, the whole world is betting against you. Nobody believes that.
He's like, I love an underdog. Joe Biden forever.
Also, Alex, I fixed the article again.
Alex Stein, Primetime 99, loves big booty Latinas. Fact check, true. Let me tell you this, though. It makes me a little, and I don't want to use the word jealous, but I'm a little jealous because this is Donald Trump's biggest problem, is that he doesn't have enough support within his own party, and yet the liberals will just blindly follow a retarded guy, to D.C. I mean, they would literally vote for Joe Biden knowing that he's not.
I saw a posting where this girl was like, Joe Biden forever, I would vote for him if he was in a coma.
Yeah.
But this is not fair. I really, and I mean this in all sincerity, the people suffering from legitimate mental retardation are not the same as Joe Biden, who is demented. And I mean demented in the literal sense.
I apologize to all the retarded people out there.
I respect that outside. I thank you for that.
Well, no, but at least they will blindly follow him. If they did that for Trump, we probably wouldn't have had all those sham investigations. Trump's presidency would have been much better. I mean, just even what's happened after his presidency with January 6th, like if our party actually respected him as a president, like they pretend to respect Joe Biden, I think our country would be better. But we have a bunch of idiots that are, have the keys to the castle, and that's why I think our country is sucking so much right now.
The reality is the current regime is willing to do anything to destroy America, and all of their pawns will follow anything they do in the name of social justice and, changing the country for the better while simultaneously just hurting themselves.
Well, the left does a very good job hiding the news that they don't want to get out for their viewers to see, right? They don't see the gaps that we see. We ingest news at a much higher rate than most people do.
Yeah.
The debates, you can't hide it. A lot of people who aren't heavily involved in politics, they wait for the debates to see what's going on. Last night was probably the first time that the left saw Biden in all of his glory.
You know how I know that that's true? We had this was our biggest live audience ever. It was over 200,000 concurrents, and there were a couple of comments where they were like, "Tim looks thin," and I'm like, if the last time they watched the show was when I was like 10 or 20 pounds heavier, it's been a long time for him. It's been a long time.
I remember for a while you were like, we have to re-record the outros because I don't look like that anymore.
Well, it happens a lot.
I mean, it is
It's
interesting.
like I lost a lot of weight doing keto, and then I stopped keto, and it started coming back, and I'm like, these outros, they're getting bad. I think we have to redo it again.
No, but it's interesting because I think you're right. I mean, if people haven't checked in on any politics since the last election cycle, basically when Biden was trying to get elected, they don't really know what's going on. And part of that is I have enormous sympathy for Americans who are struggling every day, who are just trying to pay their bills, get to their job, be present in their family lives. They don't necessarily have the opportunity to follow politics as closely as we do because, we do it professionally. Yep. But I think that there's a lot of willful ignorance, people who are saying, no matter what you say, I will not accept any kind of reality unless Karine Jean-Pierre has said it was okay for me to accept. And I think that is actually a form of self-delusion that we really can't tolerate as a culture.
I think it's all the low prop voters that are affecting our country. Is they just don't know what's going on. They're so ill-informed that it's going to take, honestly, like the grassroots, what, Scott Pressler's doing. Like he's killing it with the voter registration game, and we have to get the low props.
Yeah, because the spin right now from the Biden administration is, but Joe Biden basically said, like, I might be old, I'm not the man I was, but at least I don't lie. But that we know that he lied.
He was lying.
Yeah, he said he had a 6 handicap.
He said no American soldiers died on his watch, and that's completely wrong.
But
No, he was
the
checking
golf
his
thing.
watch when the American soldiers were dead.
That is true. Yeah. The golf, I mean this seriously, the golf thing may have actually won Trump more voters than anything else that was said. Two things. When he said you beat Medicare to death, that was actually a really bad moment for Biden because Biden started going, we beat Medicare. And then they cut him off. The moderators jumped in because Biden was spiraling. And then Trump goes, yeah, you beat Medicare. You beat it to death. That was a zinger. But regular people don't know or care. That's why they like WWE, right? I'm not saying this disrespectfully. Like people got their lives. They're not focused on politics. They turn this on and they see Trump nearly fall off the stage. 6 handicap. And they started busting out laughing. Well, you like the guy.
And he's like, I've seen your swing. That can't be true. Like, it's funny. It's also like, I'm paying attention. Dave Portnoy of Barstool Sports had this tweet that he was like, that's it. Let's settle this on the golf course. And I think a lot of people actually find that funny and relatable.
Portnoy had the best tweet. He was like, everything Biden says has not fazed Trump at all until he mentioned his 6 handicap and Trump nearly fell off the stage. Like, how dare you?
Well, I think it also got the culture commentators to start talking about politics in a way that they hadn't before, because then it's all of a sudden, let's talk about golf and getting new voters.
Yeah.
There is no way Biden has a 6 handicap. That's insane.
Not possible.
He shoots a 200 handicap.
Do you remember when the criticism of Trump was like, he golfs too much, he golfs all the time? Like,
he's not working enough.
I think in this case, I trust his opinion that Joe Biden does not have whatever claim to fame in golf he thinks he has.
Well, if his handicaps for, dementia, Parkinson's disease, sure, you might have a 6 handicap.
It's just, 6 of them.
Yeah.
6 total.
Wow, we really
that's
teed you up
that's
for
what he
that
thought. He's like, I got a 6 handicap. My doctor told me.
Yeah, but it is kind of sad that like everybody's testicles are filled with microplastics. Nobody can afford a middle class home. I mean, literally, people can barely afford to fill up their gas tank. And the thing that resonates the most of that whole debate is a lie about playing golf. It kind of shows you it's like how easily we are distracted from what's really going on.
Yes and no. Yes and no. You know, we were talking about this the day before when our guest was saying if Trump really wants to reach the American people, he's got to talk about Israel. I'm not kidding. That's what he said. And I was like, yeah, no way. It doesn't even register in the top 50 issues for people. If you want to reach regular people, you have to be funny and likable.
Yeah.
Issues actually, people don't remember what you said to them. They remember how you made them feel. And when Trump scoffed and said 6 handicap, that's the biggest lie of the night, people laugh. It's funny, and then they're like, that guy's funny. And then, how does Trump make you feel? He made me laugh.
And Joe Biden made me feel like he was a catty middle school girl. I mean, he was like, you had sex with a porn star. And he's just like trying to attack Trump personally. Like, I could be totally wrong. I have any fact checked on this, but I think Biden was the first one to make it personal, to start throwing personal digs, whereas Trump was able to just be like, the record, the economy, immigration. I mean, it's not that he never said anything about Hunter, but it definitely felt like it started with Joe Biden, which to me argues that he is in a weak position. He's in a very emotional position.
Check this out. We have this article from SCNR, Cassandra McDonald reporting. New York Times runs seemingly pre-written op-ed calling for Biden to drop out of the presidential race. The URL indicates the article was at least partially pre-written and loaded up on June 25th. Check this out. So this is Nick Kristof calling for Biden to withdraw from the race. And it's here you can see it. The URL is newyorktimes.com/2024/06/25/opinion/Joe-Biden-drop-out.html. Now, I want to tell you guys, this means they titled this. They titled the article Joe Biden Dropout on the 25th. When you create a draft, and I'm assuming, to be fair, but in our system, and correct me if I'm wrong, Hannah Claire, if you create a draft with a title, it generates that URL as the draft URL, doesn't it?
It does. The only defense that I have for this is there are times with our system, and I can't speak New York Times, where like I will start an article, but I won't have time to finish it. Then the next day I'll go in and use the same draft post to like change the article. It's a completely different thing. So it's generated
But
on
the URL
Monday.
won't change.
I don't think it will.
It will not. And so this is what matters. They began to write this in whatever form 2 days before the debate happened. And then in the article, Nick Kristof cites the debate, saying after the debate, it's hard to avoid the feeling that Biden remaining in the race increases the likelihood that Trump will move into the White House in January. I don't think he waited until after the debate was over, went in and edited it. It is possible, it is probable, but I think likely what happened is he wrote this up. They knew the debate was going to be bad, and they said, just wait and see, right? And then after the debate, they said publish. They knew they wanted Biden to drop out.
So they knew they weren't giving him his PEDs then.
His what?
His PEDs, his PEDs. Performance-enhancing drugs. They must have known that because it's worked before.
Did you see that meme where the person's like trying to give Adderall to Joe Biden through the TV and they're pushing it into the screen?
When you're this close to hospice, they don't work anymore.
Yeah, but why are we acting surprised? We know that he pooped his pants on the beaches of Normandy recently.
We don't know that.
I know, but we speculate that maybe he didn't poop his pants, but it looked like he did.
But here's how you frame it. There is more evidence that Joe Biden crapped his pants on stage than there is the Hunter Biden laptop is a Russian disinformation scheme.
That's a good way to put it. That'd be hard to debate. So this isn't a surprise. People know that he's not capable of being the president for another 4 years. So, I mean, it makes sense now the New York Times is turning on him. They probably should have turned on him a little bit sooner. This is probably their fatal error, is that they're doing it now when it could be potentially too late. So
I think they had to have edited after the fact because he wrote, my phone has been blowing up with texts from people saying, dear God, what are we going to do? It's imperative we change horses. But Democrats have been reluctant to say this out loud. Guys, Biden has announced he will debate Trump again. It's, hold on. Just hear me out.
Great. Let's do it.
The greatest activist against the Democrats right now is Joe Biden.
I almost died from the last drinking game. I don't think I can survive another one.
Did you see those?
Which one?
coins.
The coins, the flips, yes.
Yeah, the president for prison. I'm just so excited I'm showing everybody.
It's funny because Joe Biden is the DNC's biggest enemy, and we have people saying like, "Oh, they'll make him drop out." But I have said consistently since he took office that he is not giving up the White House. Like Joe Biden is going to see every single one of their grandchildren married in the White House if she has anything to do about it. There are almost two separate entities at war here, and especially the structure that is supporting Biden. They don't want to leave. They don't want to give up their chance at another 4 years of telling people what to do and propagating terrible misinformation.
I do think that there's a coordinated attempt to get Biden to not run anymore, because I don't think it's a coincidence that almost every single mainstream headline today was Trump needs to leave or Biden needs to leave. Like, there's no way he can be on the ticket. And it just seemed like it was too planned, in my opinion. And the fact that in the spin room last night, Gavin Newsom was doing a lot more press in the last 48 hours than he has done, I will say, like all year. And I do feel like they're setting Biden up to leave office. I've been calling it the great presidential campaign replacement theory, because there's just no way for me that they can put Biden on the ticket and actually think that they have a shot at winning.
So who would they put on the ticket? Who are you thinking?
I honestly think it would be either Gavin Newsom, Michelle Obama, maybe Kamala Harris, but I don't think Kamala Harris has enough pull and people don't like her enough.
There are a couple op-eds out today about how Kamala Harris is the one and Joe Biden.
What about Hillary?
Side.
Have you heard anything about Hillary Clinton?
There's a theory about her because she just released her book.
That's what I'm thinking too.
I mean, I
she's
think
gonna
she
step
wants to
in.
stay relevant.
And
but-
she lost a bunch of weight.
Yeah, so that's like, what is she
Ozempic?
losing that weight for?
Yeah, that's people are saying Ozempic.
So I don't know if they do replace. I think like Gavin Newsom has it just money in the bank to be the candidate in 2028. So I don't know if he risks running and losing that might hurt him, or maybe he looks at it as like a free roll to do an election as like a test election. But I have no doubt in 2028 that he will be the Democratic candidate.
Yeah, he'll run in 2028 for sure.
But why is the left so willing to like lose? Like, the debate was so bad.
They can get dead people to vote for him, so they're not. They don't
They
have to
got
worry about it.
9.6 million illegal immigrants.
I return to my thesis for the night, which is Democrats believe their own propaganda, right? They believe that Trump is the be all, like the omen of the end times for the United States, that people will not vote for him. They believe that Joe Biden is, at least they would at least take him even if he is not functional. I mean, I've seen comments on social media today where they were like, it doesn't matter if he's in a coma. We're voting for the administration. We're voting for the Supreme Court nominations. That means that they are voting for the structure around Joe Biden. They don't actually care about the figurehead, which means that like they don't really care if they replace him or not, because they believe that there's enough influence in the staff to get the results that they think, or at least progressive voters want.
My concern is this: if Joe Biden does step down, does that mean Obama has to as well? Because it's obvious he's running the show, right?
Well, no. The rules of running backroom presidencies is that Biden steps down, Kamala steps in, and Obama stays exactly where he is running the show.
Perfect. So it's got to find someone who will take orders from Obama. That's what they're looking for. I would go with Michelle.
Well, the election's in November, but when does he leave? In January? Like when would?
January's the
Yeah.
inauguration.
Yeah.
So I mean,
January
I wouldn't be
20th
surprised.
is his
21st, right?
the 20th is inauguration, so then his last day would be that day. Like Trump gets sworn in, he's the
The
president.
conspiracy theorist in me believes that like they will run Gavin Newsom, but they'll make Joe Biden step down in the interim so that they can put the multicultural woman as president. And I wouldn't be
Right.
surprised.
Well, so I was saying that so everyone's wondering how you get through Kamala Harris, right? If Joe Biden steps down, Kamala's next in line. But if Joe Biden suffers a health issue, Kamala Harris assumes the role of acting president, and then it's clean. She says, there is no way as acting president in a time of emergency, I can run a campaign. I am happy to do my duty to this nation, and I am happy to see Gavin Newsom campaign for the next term.
Would she be the vice president for Gavin?
She would be, no,
So he's going to have another totally different.
yes,
Yeah.
Whitmer. But that's the only way you do it, because then she saves face by saying, as the acting president, it would be irresponsible to try and launch a presidential campaign, while trying to save this country in an emergency. So she gets a clean exit. And then she cuts a backroom deal with Newsom or whatever. And there
Yeah,
you
I was
go.
going to say, I mean, I think part of it is that she is hoping to transition into another position of power. I have to imagine someone in Kamala Harris's camp has brought up to her, you're deeply unpopular and people wouldn't vote for you. But theoretically, like, what if she got appointed to the Supreme Court? What if she got appointed, somewhere else where she can have influence?
They would hire her somewhere in some White House job if the
Maybe, or like an
DNC
academic
stayed, yeah.
position. But I think ultimately, I am wondering if it's how can the DNC is like, how can we position it so she is the next Supreme Court nominee? Because there's theoretically going to be, I think, at least 2 appointments, we think, in the next 4 years.
So maybe not a lateral move, but definitely will compensate you for your time.
People think she'll get offered the Supreme Court or something.
Yeah,
And she'll have a job for life. I mean, she probably wants that because
and she
she's
doesn't have to get voted
untalented.
in, right?
Yeah.
She has to pass this. She has to be confirmed by the Senate, but she's not subject to the people's opinion, and that's been really one of the biggest issues, that
She's not
nobody
liked.
likes her.
I hope if she becomes president, she's like Willie Brown, and she can, stop the crisis in the Ukraine by maybe having sex with Vladimir Putin.
Wouldn't that be fascinating if that
Joe
was what
Biden
she
can't
did?
have sex with Vladimir Putin, I don't think.
No.
But Kamala could.
You need someone, well, because they're old and like it's a medical concern. You know what I mean?
I don't think Putin would go for.
But
You don't think so?
He'd be like, "You're not setting your best."
but in all seriousness, Kamala Harris, assuming the presidency, is the fastest path towards nuclear war.
It's true.
I mean, honestly, like whoever it is, if it's Gavin Newsom, if it's Whitmer, if it's Biden, or otherwise, like voting Democrat is voting for escalation of international conflict.
Absolutely.
Do you think they can drop a nuclear weapon, though? I mean, you really think they
Yes.
can do that?
I think they would. They're too money hungry and power hungry. If they remain in control of the White House and they are just continuously making foreign money by starting and continuing wars.
Well, no, I don't think the U.S. drops nukes. I think Russia uses tactical nukes on the battlefield. So so already we are in. According to Russia, nuclear war has begun, I think, a year ago when the UK sent depleted uranium bunker busters or whatever, these massive artillery shells that were radioactive, and they said this is nuclear warfare, because a lot of nuclear weapons are intentionally radioactive, because they have nuclear weapons that can reduce the radioactive yield intentionally. Some are designed to make massive fireballs. Some are designed to maximize the shock wave, which shatters glass, and some are designed to maximize EMP. So Russia's already stated the UK sending these weapons is nuclear war. But I'm saying if Trump gets in, de-escalation in seconds. If Biden remains in, it's going to be ever-inching escalation. I mean, we just had those Ukrainian strikes using U.S. weapons on Russian citizens in Crimea. So we like, this is the precipice. Russia says, oh, we'll get you at some point. And I'm like, wow, that's not a very strong statement. But if Russia is ever fearing that they're going to lose, and maybe the reason they're not retaliating is because they're winning. There's no reason to draw in other countries into a massive escalation of the conflict when they've secured the areas they want. But if Russia ever needed to, they're going to launch low-yield tactical nukes, maybe 10 kiloton bombs, 100 kiloton bombs.
And they have boats in Cuba right now that could send missiles and hit us right now.
Yeah, and
Russia
some
does.
people fear there's going to be another Cuban Missile Crisis.
Well, I think we're kind of in it, right? I mean, if they have boats there with nuclear arsenals in those boats, I mean, aren't we?
Well,
in
there's
that?
no nukes in the boats.
There's not.
No,
Okay. I
it's a
thought the
nuke- it's a-
submarines had, but there's submarines there too.
Submarines are
nuclear-
nuclear powered.
So no nuclear weapons.
No weapons.
Honestly, Miami look better. Miami might look better afterwards anyway.
That's unfortunate. The Everglades are beautiful. But the big issue, I think what Russia's move was was to scare the American people. Putin's probably thinking, the American people don't know what their government's doing and they don't care. Let's make them realize what war means. They send a strike group 10 miles off the coast, and then you see Air Force, Navy, military, whatever, flying out to monitor this. And then all of a sudden the American people are like, whoa, 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 you mean they can come here? And now they're in Cuba? They want the American people to react negatively, and they want them to vote for Donald Trump so Donald Trump can de-escalate the war, because de-escalation is better for everybody. Russia secures their portion of Ukraine, which is they want to take control of Crimea. They're not going to invade Europe. That's a ridiculous lie. The U.S. just wants to continue to expand NATO, and they want to control Gazprom and other gas exchanges, natural gas exchanges in Europe. Russia's likely going to stay where they are, and the U.S. will whinge about it because they want to be the hegemonic power. Let's do this, though. Ladies and gentlemen, I got good and bad news for you. It depends on how many of you are gamblers. Take a look at this from the betting odds over at Real Clear Polling. The Real Clear Polling average has Donald Trump at 54.8% to win, and Joe Biden is now at 19.2%. Take a look at this. That is a beautiful sight, isn't it? After the debate, Joe Biden went from, what was he at, like 37, dropping all the way down to 19.2. Look at that drop off, that spike. Trump only went up a little bit from 51 to 54. Newsom went up. Everybody else went up a little bit. I don't know how much this matters, but I kind of feel like this is a glimpse, a reflection of the wisdom of the crowd and true polling. You call somebody on the phone and you say, who are you voting for? They'll tell you anything. Then they say, oh, no, trust us. It's a representative sample. You ask people to put their money on the line, and they're going to tell you what they actually think.
Well, Vegas is always right. Like, let's say they put the odds on a game. Very rarely is it that far off. Like,
They don't want to lose money.
Yeah, I mean, if they think the Chiefs are going to win by 3, the Chiefs always win, usually by like 1 or 4. You know, there's always close to whatever they say. So I think these lines do have some authenticity to them. Like, that's probably what it is.
Who wants to challenge Harry Sisson? to take up the inverse odds. If you really think, and then you could do, do you know what betting arbitrage is? Are you guys familiar with this?
No.
So when two different betting websites, sporting websites, give different odds, there's I don't know if I can explain it, give a really good example of it, but basically, one site will say this fighter has X odds. And the other website says this fighter has Y odds, and you can actually bet on both of the fighters to win and make money. Because if it's
You're hedging, but that's not hedging.
it's arbitrage. It's called betting arbitrage. Basically, if one guy, it's like you bet $1, you win $1. The other guy is you bet $1, you win $1. It's like you risk $2 to win $3 because you're betting on both to win. It's a guaranteed win. Because different betting websites have different odds, and you can see right here the different odds they have for Trump. So depending on the outcome, like Predictit's odds for Biden right now are 25. The argument is if you can find bets that have that imbalance, you can make money. So I'm basically saying you take up Harry Sisson on his adamant fervor that Biden is going to win, and then you've easily got a win-win where you can't lose.
Isn't he like 19 though?
21.
21.
Oh, okay. He's a little older than I thought.
I mean, the dude clearly doesn't watch politics at all.
No.
He's just on.
I think he gets his
TikTok,
tweets sent to him like, hey, here's this, tweet it out, we'll pay you $100,000.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, part of it is he's treating it like it's like a sports team, right?
But here's-
He's gonna go down. He's gonna say whatever Biden does. He's gonna be like, "That's amazing." I mean, people who are like this with
He's just
they're
gonna lie.
I
Right,
love
they're
the
fans of
Dallas
like the Dallas
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
They
Like they can
suck,
do no
yeah.
wrong, and you're like, doesn't matter. I'm on their team,
He will
and
go
that's
down.
fine for sports. But in this case, if you're trying to act like you are a reputable source for information, I think it would be good to have a little bit of humility here and be like, that was not good. You could still say you're voting for him, but be like that performance was rough.
The problem I have is with the people that are following him because they actually are enjoying his takes. Like think about like 41 million members of Gen Z who are going to be able to be at the ballot box in November. Think of how many of them didn't watch the debate or are chronically online and only listen to TikTok, and they see Harry Sisson or his other guy, make TikToks, or his Twitter is all of the information that we're consuming. Like obviously we're on the right wing and can see more conservative politics that are transparent, but there are people that I think will see his tweets and think what he is saying is legitimately true. And that's why I have a problem is he is willingly lying and will never even admit to it. Like he is so sold out on Biden 2024, it's sick.
Yeah.
I don't know his metrics though, his views to it. Have you been in his comment sections?
Oh yeah, I mean I've gone back
Is
and
it all
forth with
hate?
him
I don't ever
before.
look.
It's
But-
fun.
It's like still like if you go on his TikTok and like there's also Gen Z for Change, we're tweeting and posting about it, and like I'm 24, like I'm a Gen Zer, so I'm on the college campuses and I see what they're talking about, and I think for a lot of like moderate independent Gen Zers who are more concerned about the social justice issues more than immigration and policy, they see what he's saying and they're like, oh, late term abortion, yeah, I'm for that, and just with the sole fact that they're like the low prop Gen Z voters. That's the only thing that I'm concerned about.
Does anybody like a late-term abortion though? I mean, do people on the left even?
Yes.
Feminists, yeah. No, it's
mean,
like a
like,
real thing.
young-
I feel like
young
people even on
progressives-
the left are still kind of like,
Nope, no way,
would be
dude.
shocked.
Every progressive we've debated on this show or on Culture War has been adamant about the right to abort up to the point of birth. And
that makes you a sicko. That makes you a
it's-
murderer.
well, sure.
I mean, yeah.
Vosh on the show, I asked him, when does life begin? He says, some point after birth.
So they usually say like at first breath or something. Like that is a legitimate
Some point.
debate.
But that's But see, that's so stupid because it's not true. If you're pregnant and you get in a car crash, like a DWI car crash, somebody hits you. That's a double murder. If you
Not in every state.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not in every state.
Oh, wow. Well, I know that's in Texas. If a
I
pregnant.
think California too.
But so that proves that obviously it's a life.
Yep, of course it does.
So I mean, it's just very
It
stupid.
is just dumb.
And like, I get the argument. I mean, I'm anti-abortion, but I get the argument. Oh, first trimester, second trimester, maybe. Like, I kind of understand their point, but up until birth, I mean, that is literal murder. And then on top of that, Planned Parenthood has been exposed selling these baby body parts all over multiple times. Like, I don't understand how people don't see how sick it is to carry a baby to full term and then kill it.
I think part of it is that abortion has become an issue that you're not allowed to question without questioning feminism, which I think you should do. I think about, there's very little, it's similar to the birth control conversations, right? Like you can't say, hey, maybe the birth control pill has long-term side effects that we don't talk about enough, without it being like you are trying to set women back and chain them to the kitchen and whatever else like the fear is. And I think it's similar with abortion, right? Like if you don't let women have access to abortions, then you hate them and you're trying to enslave them or whatever, when really like the conversation would be like, do we have enough research out there about the long-term consequences of these things? I'm with you. I think it should be something that you don't want, that people are against, that it is a life and you recognize such. But if you're like a believe science and trust everything feminist, I think the way to convert them would be like, hey, has anyone done a study on what the long-term consequences for your body after you have an abortion are? Because I think part of it is they don't talk about it because we can't question this at all. It really is an emotional issue, but not in terms of preserving life. It's emotional in the sense of like you are questioning the philosophy and ideology with which I govern every decision I make, extreme feminism.
Well, but if you're trying to appease feminists, then why do you let trans people in all their circles?
Well, and that's what I say all the time is it's like the toxic feminism is, it's pro-abortion, it's pro-men competing in women's sports. They've adopted the LGBT is now a part of feminism, and it makes absolutely no sense. I said the feminist movement is the most anti-woman movement we've ever seen. And to your point, it's true. Like, why don't we talk about the emotional side effects? I think conservatives have finally, gotten on the birth control train and talking about all of the ways that feminism is hurting our generation. But I think that a lot of these women are so scared of leaving the feminist cult and speaking out against like, oh, yeah, maybe men shouldn't be in women's sports, but now you're not a feminist and you're not pro-women because trans women are women. It's become this complete just dystopia on the left.
The divide between Alex and I are the same generation, right? Between us and Gen Z, they've watered down the word, right? I'm sure they don't use abortion in your circles. They call it healthcare. They've moved that goalpost so far down. It's now healthcare.
It's a women's right.
I believe it's murder. That's what I believe. I believe it is always murder. I don't want to celebrate it. We don't celebrate suicide. Why do we celebrate murder, right? It is the removal of life. It's never a good thing. I understand sometimes it happens. Life of the mother is involved, rape, incest. We have these things. But you water that down so much and call it healthcare. Who's going to fight that?
Have you ever looked? I've done this a couple times where I'll have a super liberal friend and you'll be like, well, I don't believe it's healthcare. And it's like there's a glitch. Like they don't know how to respond to that because they are so ingrained in this conversation of like if you don't let women have abortions, it's like not letting someone who's diabetic have insulin. Like it's a complete. It's so different from how we view it. And I think that's one of the conversations that I like that abortion brings up is like, well, how do we value life and where does it begin? And like, what are the things that we are willing to say no to as a culture? And I think ultimately it's one of the things that reveals how trust the science team doesn't actually use any of their own methods to prove what they want, right? Like, do you guys know if abortion has any long-term consequences? Do we know if abortion creates any kind of scar tissue? Do we know if abortion has any kind of increase in cancer rates, right? Like, I bet anyone who advocates for abortion doesn't know any of that.
Yes, I have seen the liberal white women and what happens to them after they have abortions. Have you seen them? They're all freaking nuts.
Well, most of them have never even seen what an abortion actually is, and that's also a major problem. But they're so bought into regurgitating the talking points that they've been fed by their movement that they're like unwilling to hear out any opposing opinion about any of the social justice issues. Same thing with like BLM and everything. If you go against their regime, then you are no longer a feminist and you don't fit in with our crowd. It's either you agree with all of it or none of it.
Because you're threatening their identity.
Right.
And that's what I think about like Harry Sisson and the Biden stuff too. It's like if you have decided that you are pro-Biden no matter what happens, you're going down like everyone gets irritated with the like always Trumpers, right? Like liberal media will be like, they would do anything that Trump says and this, that, and the other. It's like, you guys have those people too. In fact, you're almost worse because in this case, there's an elderly man on stage who seems to be really struggling and you guys are just catching up on the fact that maybe this isn't okay.
We got more big news. There's so much. Take a look at this tweet from Political Polls. You want to read that, Alex Stein?
New Jersey general election is giving Trump an advantage by 1 point. 41% Trump, 40% Joe Biden.
This is either his coefficient. They've done a lot of polls. They're cited widely. This may be, it's got to be either the worst polling organization known to man to put Trump up in New Jersey. Perhaps it is just a blip on the radar. But if this is an accident, this is like just a polling error, Trump shouldn't be anywhere near Biden. New Jersey's like D plus 20 something.
Well, how many people went to his New Jersey rally? Wasn't it like 100,000?
That's South Jersey. Mm-hmm. And it was, they estimate like 100,000. So even if this is in the margin of error, that is wild. And now it may be their poll is spot on. Trump is winning in New Jersey.
There were Gen Z kids at that rally in New Jersey. Did you see that that younger kid, the white kid that went viral? He's talking about, I can't repeat it here, it's YouTube, but young people are showing up even in New Jersey.
Young people are showing up. I think they're actually hungry for the truth. I will say, like this past semester, traveling with Charlie Kirk and Turning Point at our Change My Mind events and all of our speaking events, we've had the longest lines that I've ever seen being involved in politics in the last 3 years. And I genuinely see our generation waking up and they're sick and tired of being lied to by the regime and constantly being on their phones. But the thing is, they're going to college and still being indoctrinated every single day that they have to actually seek out the truth, or it's going to take people like us going to those campuses and changing their minds. But I do see it. I do think that there is a large amount of our generation that is going to go to the polls because they are sick of it.
Sick of is there something specific?
Just the left. I mean,
is it always social issues or is it some of economic? Sometimes I wonder if there are young people who are just like, how am I supposed to become an adult right now?
So I did ask, what is the biggest issue facing our generation today? And the number 2 answers I got were political division, and it actually was inflation. It was, I am concerned that I'm not going to be able to afford to buy a house. I have no savings. I can't get a job because the job market right now in America is horrible for current graduates. They can't seem to find jobs. And I know it's been viral on TikTok lately of people are applying to hundreds of jobs and can't even land a couple of interviews to even get a job. So I do think, like, for the large amount, immigration for Gen Z, I wouldn't say is a huge issue because I think they see the social side of immigration more than millennials and Gen Xers. But for Gen Z, I will say the inflation is definitely hitting their bank accounts more than they thought.
Anecdotal, but I got kids, lots of kids.
Many kids.
So many children. Oldest is in high school. When I was a kid growing up, you were, by the time you were a junior, you always had a car. Like, you had a license, you had a car.
Yeah.
The car lot is empty at the high school. These kids aren't getting cars, right? And that used to be a thing. You grow up, you hit 17, 18, you work at a job for a couple months, your parents kind of pitch in, meet you halfway, you get a vehicle. These kids don't have cars.
Well, I'm not trying to talk about me, but getting a car was like the most important thing. I got a hardship license. My dad and I, so I got my license at 15, and he lied and said he had a bunch of health problems, and I had to drive him to the hospital at any moment. I hope we don't get in trouble for that. But my point is, that is crazy how much we've changed in a short time. That was the most important thing in my life, was like getting a car, driving. And now the fact that kids don't want to do that, that's very...
I don't think they can afford it. I think it's
that what
the
it
lack
is?
of
I think they
affording.
can't afford it.
Yeah.
Because
Because it's not just the car, it's in the gas and the maintenance.
Oh, but cars have gotten way expensive.
We're shopping for a car for my
you
oldest.
can get a cheap beater car. Like, my first car was a $700 Ford Explorer.
I mean, car
and it
insurance-
broke down like all the time.
Car insurance is up like 25%. I mean, it is wild. So you're saying you're shopping for a car for your oldest?
We're shopping car for oldest, and we want something that has, it's reliable, lower mileage, something that'll last through college or whatever. But we're talking like $12,000, $13,000 for a used car with 50+ thousand miles on it.
My first car was a hatchback Mazda 323, and I've been trying to find one, but they're just gone. Just 1989. It was a 1989 Mazda 323, and it was like $800, $900, and it broke down all the time, and then it just stopped working after a little while. But that's your first car,
Mixing cars
It
builds
goes.
character.
It had a cassette player in it, and I remember I was 18 and I was driving on the highway, and it's super small. You can probably fit 3 people in there comfortably and 4 people in there uncomfortably, and it's just this tiny thing, but it was mine.
Yeah, I think that I mean, it's sort of an American thing because we are a more driving culture than other countries. But like getting your license and being able to go and being able to either go to a job or your friend's house or things that you're interested in, like it is a big goal for a lot of teenagers. I had a lot of friends who, when we were in high school, their grandparents passed and they inherited their car, and it was a way to just get started. And it's not like it's super cool, but it's also like allowed them to begin to do all kinds of things, pursuing interests, whether it's professional or just on the side, art, whatever it is. And the fact that teenagers are already hitting this barrier. I can't imagine being a new graduate or someone who's coming out of the trades being like, I would like to buy a home. I would like to start a family. I would like to start saving for a cool trip, and just feeling like you could never do it. That sort of hopelessness is one of the things that I think the economic issues has a severe impact on the younger generations. When you're older and you've had some savings, you go through a hardship, like it's tough, you don't like it, you're stressed. But being able to be like, anything I want right now, I can literally not achieve because I can't afford it. It's devastating.
People are just starting cat families. I'm not even joking. Like, it's like these young people are like, I can't afford anything, and they get a cat.
Yep.
I can't hate on that, but what's really
I'm not
bad?
hating on cats are great. I'm just saying, like, they should be having babies But there's like,
They're
where
not.
do you put the babies if you don't have a house?
And they can't afford a house
Right.
anymore. I mean, the median price change from 2020 just to 2024. I mean, what you used to be able to afford with a $60,000 salary, you need now double that. And the kids don't have savings. Like me, myself, I'd love to buy a house right now. And I think that's why our marriage rates have dipped and why the birth rate has dipped is also because people are so concerned about affording it. That's why women continue to work and slave away in the corporate world. Is they're like, how am I going to afford it?
Or do OnlyFans now. Every girl's doing an OnlyFans to make money, which is like another part of our society why it's like degrading so much because the girl's like, I don't know how to get a job. Okay, well, I can show my boobs and make, $5,000 a month or whatever it is.
But not everyone
And
has
we
good
have-
boobs.
Yeah, that's true.
You
But
know?
I don't know if you even have
Not every
to.
guy
will
wants
say-
that. You know what I mean?
I saw a story of a girl who tried OnlyFans and she ended up losing money because nobody was actually subscribing to her. And she was sold this false reality
Yeah.
by the 1%ers saying, go on OnlyFans, you'll make a ton of money, it's worth it. And she ended up selling just her body to these men and not actually being able to afford a living. And now she's like just
I think
working
it's-
a desk job.
I think it's China.
China.
I know.
Yeah, I think
China.
if I was working in cyber command of the U.S., I'd be like, we want to get as many of our adversaries' women quitting their jobs and being degenerates because it will depress their economy, it will slow growth, and it will distract and steal resources from men. The women producing sexual content will not be adding anything substantive to the economy. So that means you are shifting production towards something that can't benefit them in the long run, and it will build bad behaviors. It will depress their fertility rates. It is the best psychological attack on a nation.
You're exactly right because the fentanyl crisis is coming straight from China.
Imagine if every woman on OnlyFans instead was making birdhouses, right? Just like instead they just made bird. Imagine if there was an app called Only Birds, and it's like, oh man, you can make $10,000 a month with birdhouses. Hey, guess what? At the end of that month, there's a bunch of birdhouses, and that's something functional people can use. But at the end of that month, that porn content they made is nothing. It's literal nothing. So what's happening is the women on OnlyFans, they take money from men. They go to the grocery store and they buy milk, bread, and eggs, right? It's more than that, but just simply put, where is the labor being produced to replace the products being extracted from the economy? The way an economy should work basically, if you go back in time, is I'm going to grow wheat and then I'm going to trade that wheat to a baker in exchange for finished baked products. And it's the synergy between what I make and what he makes. And then that's how you get an economy. One guy makes milk, one guy makes wheat, one guy bakes it, and we all trade with each other. If some dude shows up and he starts just shaking his butt and everyone starts giving him money, then he buys all the baker's goods, all the farmed goods. Then there's no trade between them for the food they need. Then the guy who grows wheat and says, I don't have enough money to buy the wheat. I'm saying, I think, not necessarily China, but it would be very easy for China or Iran or Russia to subscribe to OnlyFans intentionally to get these women to quit their jobs. What was that? You're a cop, you're a nurse, do porn instead. After a month of making a bunch of money, they go, oh man, I'm gonna do this instead. And then you leave. There are tons of women who are like, I got fired from my job once they found out I did OnlyFans. And now they're no longer producing anything valuable for an economy.
I think it's also like the TikTok brain rot. In addition to that, it's like, who's to say that Russia, China aren't manipulating the news streams to the next generation, causing them to think that, being an influencer is the next new big job. So in addition to porn, you also have these people with no real education or talent who are able to make a quote unquote living off the internet. But I don't think it's actually sustainable. And I think it's another way to just psychologically cripple the American people.
Yeah. And I think a lot of OnlyFans / influencer culture, I know they're technically different. It feeds on a level of like materialism and insecurity that a lot of young people, but definitely I think a lot of young Americans have. It looks cool. They're always on vacation. They have flashy things. This OnlyFans girl bought her crazy car. Like this influencer is, going to meet cool celebrities or whatever it is. Like it's aspirational content, but not in a way that cultivates strong values. It's aspirational in that it plagues on our deep insecurities that we don't have the cool thing or we don't have enough or we don't get to live this luxurious lifestyle. And I think that's sad.
It's idolizing oneself instead of something greater than yourself. And I think that plays into like the Gen Z election. That's why they're so attached to the left, is because that's what they're propagating on the left, is instead of, hey, trust in other people and, you know, reject the government. They're so used to getting the handouts and they're used to like talking to the big government. And I think that's a problem, is because they're just used to being handed everything, and it's the social issues, and they trust the Democratic Party instead of actually seeking up towards something bigger than themselves.
When you're on college campuses, do you ask young college students or, you know, young voters what their ideal life is? Because I think it would be so different
That
than
would be
like,
really
the way your
interesting.
grandparents described it.
Yeah, I mean, majority of the time I've like asked like, oh, what's your dream job? They're like, oh, I want to be a podcaster or a YouTuber. But I feel like people think that they're genuinely just going to make a ton of money and live this like happy socialist utopic life. Because I've met multiple people who are genuine communist and Marxist on college campus. I've walked through the Hamas encampments, and they're just so convinced that they're going to get paid to protest, I think, the rest of their lives. And like the normie people are like, oh, I'm just going to work a job the rest of my life, you know, maybe have some kids. But it's not trending in the way that they're going to actually foster healthy nuclear families in the future, because they idolize themselves and they're more worried about just making a living on their own and making money and climbing the non-existent societal social ladder.
Well, maybe this is, maybe you disagree with this, but I actually would encourage people to try to like YouTube or podcasts. If you actually put enough effort into it, you could be successful,
Yeah.
because more kids, I think, say that they would rather be a YouTuber than an astronaut now when they get surveyed. So it's like anything in life. Like if you really want to be a YouTuber, you really want to be a content creator, then learn how to edit, learn how to shoot. And if you don't succeed in your own content, there's so many people that need editors and that need this skill. So if you really do want to do that, I say go all in. And I don't think that's bad for society. Like young people, like, I want to be an influencer. Maybe.
No.
I know, I'm not saying
It's
that you
more
said
of like
that.
the people that are, they idolize the influencer and the materialism culture
they don't wanna
that
do the
showed
work.
online, but they won't. Exactly.
And
That's what
I think an influencer who is like, hey, I'm really interested in this issue and I'm going to create content around it is very different than someone who's like, I want to be a vague lifestyle influencer where I just film myself kind of doing nothing all day. You know, there
No,
are
those are
people who are really passionate about something, and the internet is great because they are able to basically create their own businesses. But it's very different than, you know, I would just want to know from a 17-year-old, like when you say influencer, what do you mean? Do you mean that like you're really into candle making and you want, are you killing flies over there? You want to have a YouTube channel where you kill flies. You make candles and you teach everyone, and you make empire of candles or whatever it is, versus like I want to be able to like take selfies in the mirror and be played to advertise like the coolest, newest yoga line or whatever it is. Like very different in terms of what you're contributing and kind of how it feeds your psyche when you're doing it.
Yeah, but what industry does America really even have anymore? I mean, besides the military-industrial complex, like if you want to work for Halliburton or Raytheon or General Dynamics, you have a good job. But I'm just trying to think, like, what industry is even thriving in America today that's really good for young people to get into? I mean, insurance salesman. What?
No.
I mean, become a teacher, become a nurse. I guess. But most of the nurses are freaking travel nurses from somewhere else. So
Bloomberg had an article, I think it was people making up to, I think it was $250,000 a year. A third of them are living paycheck to paycheck.
yeah, I saw that too.
Wow.
Nutty.
See,
I mean, it's people. I don't think people realize how bad things are getting. That video the other day where the dude said, "I reordered groceries from 2 years ago and it went from $100 to $440."
Well, when you're making $250,000, you're paying over $100,000 in a year.
My grocery bill is $3,000 a month.
No, it's not.
But you
I
got
can-
17 kids.
I
you have
16.
17 boys.
And that's at Costco. You're spending that much money.
No, this is we shop deals. We do BOGOs. You know, I mean, I still eat steak because I'm not gonna eat steak.
Yeah,
But-
I know, right? Let the
Yeah.
kids eat something. They can eat grass. You
Oh,
eat
they
the
eat steak. as well.
Crickets.
You need to go buy a cow and just use the cow all year.
Cows are extremely expensive.
One
No,
cow,
it's
though?
cheaper
Bro,
if you
cows are
invest.
expensive,
If you
dude.
buy
Yeah.
one cow and have it processed, and then you
Then you
have that
freeze
meat
everything?
and freeze it for years,
Yeah.
what my family does, it is the most economical way to actually have steak. Like my mom actually just bought a pig, a full pig, and it was like $5 a pound for the entire pig. But obviously, you have to have the initial investment.
And you
It's-
can't just only eat, like then you have to use all the parts.
It's all of
and
it,
you also
yeah.
have to have a place to store it. Like I know people who
Right.
want to do this, but they live in apartments. Like, do you have a deep freezer in your apartment?
Yeah,
It's 900 to 5,000 on average.
Yeah.
$900 is cheap for a year of steaks.
But think
and
about
you
it,
can
but
turn
you
the
get-
excess
quality-
meat into ground beef.
It's got to be butchered. It's got to be stored properly.
As long
That's
as
it. You cut it up, store it. I mean,
because they deliver it in the freezer pack.
I tell you this, it's actually something easier. Is that if you get a bunch of them, you're making money, because if you leave them alone for a long enough period of time on a large enough piece of land, they make more of themselves. And then it's like you buy two. Next thing you know, you got three.
Or you can just eat the Bill Gates food.
Well, this is the great thing about chickens, because you just leave them alone, and then you come back and there's more, and then it's like, well, I'll be damned. They make more themselves, and you eat the extras.
And the eggs, you get all those eggs, unlimited omelets.
Just depending, like they lay a lot. I
Breakfast
think they lay
all
like
day.
a dozen before if they get broody and start laying on them.
Like one a day.
Yes, every day. And but you can eat the boys. You know what I mean? The roosters, too many of them. You eat them. Chicken nugget. Tastes great.
Just bring back homesteading.
But it would
Yeah,
require people
for real,
not
though.
living in apartments, which require them not living in cities, which is hard.
Which
Yeah,
is how
you're
the
right.
word is.
And Claire, it's hard because that's the reality is that people live in metropolitan cities in apartments. Most people don't have the ability to have a deep
Was
freeze.
because
You're
they
right.
can't even afford a house. Like, genuinely, this is all coming from the WEF. You will own nothing and you will be happy. It's intentionally done to where our generation is being crippled to not be able to buy houses, so they can't actually have their own self-sustainable family life, and instead you're going to rely on the government.
Yes, but they're going to have Neuralink virtual AI generated porn to watch.
It's Wall-E.
Yeah, it's going to be worse than Wall-E. Imagine if we were watching Wall-E, but all of the fat people on those carts were actually watching porn the whole time.
Disgusting.
Yeah, that's what they say, that you're going to be hooked up to a machine and you're going to be able to like ejaculate multiple times a day through this whatever metaverse that they plug through your cerebral cortex, and it's going to be better than the reality that you're living currently. And they're going to say that you can live for 1,000 years in the metaverse, but only 70 years.
I believe
it's
that is not true.
It's not about ejaculation. It's about them just triggering the dopamine in your brain, like they did with that rat. They put an electrode in your brain with a Neuralink, and then it's like you're gonna be in this VR world, and then Klaus Schwab will appear in front of you wearing his weird comic book villain costume, and he's going to look at you and go, "Alex, hello. Are you satisfied? Are you happy owning nothing and living in the pod?" And you're going to be like, I click yes. And when you do, it's going to wash over like opiates, like heroin. You're going to feel so good to live in the pod and eat the bugs.
It is impossible to emulate the connection you have with someone when you have physical intimacy. I don't care what chemical they put in my brain, whatever. The connection I have with my wife is stronger than anything they could possibly feed my brain. That takes time. That takes investment. That takes showing up and being there for them. These one-night stands, these things that people have no idea what that connection feels like.
It's true.
I pity
but-
them.
And the challenge is making that connection is much harder than sensory triggering of a dopamine receptor or something.
Yeah.
So they put the rats in the cage and they put the electrode in the brain, and the rat was able to press the dopamine release button. It just gave up on everything and started mashing the button.
Well, not trying to, just bring it back there, but I think the sexual aspect of it is going to be important, though, because so many guys are basically hate women. I noticed, like, I got a bunch of kickback because Dana White, who, I'm sorry for tweeting this, even though I'm not really that sorry, when he hit his girlfriend or hit his wife at the time, I was like, this is disgusting. A guy should never hit his wife. And I got killed in the comment section. It's like equal left, equal right. And then also, yeah, literally. And I'm saying, by
his wife hit him?
conservatives, they're like, yeah, you should, if she hit him first, you should hit him back. And then on top of that, Tim, what's some of the biggest content? Like, Morgan,
Defend yourself.
well, excuse me. Morgan's gone on this podcast, whatever podcast, where you just have on OnlyFans girls and you just yell at them. So men, I think, are sexually frustrated or mad at women. There's a weird animosity between this younger generation. They can't go on dates more. This online dating makes it so superficial that it's hard to meet a person in real life because they're automatically swiping left and right.
Maybe they should stop watching porn.
Yeah, that's a big. Porn's a big
100%.
aspect. That's what I'm saying. Porn is hurting intimacy. All the socioeconomic factors, that they're poor, the fact that girls it's harder to get with. I think that's why the younger society is so mad.
And I think we took away a lot of cultural dynamics. Like, as we moved towards sexual liberation, and it's like anyone can do whatever. We also took away some sort of like social protocols that people were like, okay, so how do you ask a girl out? You call her on the phone. You call her in advance. Like, it sounds so dumb and basic, but if you watch those like old timey like 50s videos where it's like how to politely ask a girl to prom, like, there are things that I think young men, especially because they're in a difficult position where they have to be the ones to like put yourself out there and ask someone else. Like, we made it so like, but if you do that, she'll think you're creepy. But actually you should text her on OnlyFans, or you should do what, like, it made it so much more difficult than it needs to be because we were like pursuing liberation, so to speak. It didn't make any sense. And you guys have, young men have really paid the price.
Is it okay to strike a woman if it's because I'm trying to hit the fly, but the fly was on
Tim
Hannah's
is
ass.
sitting there with
Accidental
this like
striking.
fly swatter up, like okay.
Accidental striking is okay, but that's the other thing. I'm telling you, these dating apps are really bad too because, and this is not all women, but women get more messages than men on these apps.
Oh,
and so
yeah.
So
Men
I'm
don't
saying-
get messages.
So these women have kind of weird expectations now, where they have all these guys are throwing themselves at you. So it does make it just harder. It just
Look,
skews it all.
It is still possible to meet women in the real world. And I
course.
think the perception from media because of apps has made a lot of guys think you can't. But I'm just going to throw out this like a very simple scenario. I'm not going to encourage anybody to do anything because you got to figure out your own lives. But just imagine there's a dude in Miami and he's got a dog. Maybe it's a 15-pound dog, not a big one, but not a little one. And he's walking on the beach, and then it got off the leash, and then runs over to a couple girls in bikinis, and they're going, "Oh, it's a dog." And then you walk over and say, "Sorry about that. Rex is a little. He loves people." Boom, you just met two people.
Well, you know,
If you go out in the real world to do that, though.
Exactly.
You can't just do it. I think the other part is like you should just ask your friends to set you up. Now, the caveat there is that like you can't be a jerk who sleeps with her and never calls her back, and you can't be a terrible girl who shows up and is like, "I want the most expensive thing on the menu," and you're a terrible person and like talks down to someone. Like you yourself then have to conduct yourself in a way that your friends would be like, "Yeah, I'm proud to know you," but actually everyone knows someone. You probably know someone who is single and looking for someone. You should just refer them to each other.
The problem is feminism has weaponized masculinity against men to where if you show any kind of masculinity, opening the door for a woman, being chivalrous, asking her on a date, that can be seen as creepy or unwanted attention. And that's why so many women are just going on the dating apps. And it's true, women get seen exponentially more than men and will get messages. And I think women selfishly love the attention. So where they go on the dating apps, not actually to go on a date ever, they just want to be a pen pal and they want to continue to just have these conversations, get fed compliments, and then they can turn off their profiles and leave. And then it's going to take someone to come in the real world to actually meet them.
I always hear girls will be like, "Well, I went through a breakup and so I immediately downloaded this thing so I could feel better."
It's for attention.
Like,
It is all for
you should feel better, not because random men on the internet are praising you. Like you have a self-esteem issue, and I hope you address that.
That's why they go on the those Reddits where they just post naked pictures of themselves for free.
I was at the University of Alabama and I asked women, do we need men? Like a Southern school. And I had multiple women say, no, we don't need men. Someone who even had a boyfriend said, I love my boyfriend, but like, I don't need him. He's nice to have around. How sad is that?
What's
Every
wrong?
single
I hope he
man
left her
I
in that.
asked, every single man I asked that question, do we need women? Absolutely, we need women. And it just shows the depravity of our generation that these women have bought into feminism and they go around saying, we don't need men. I'll go on dating apps. I can sleep with whoever I want to. The sexual glorification of oneself. And OnlyFans,
Well,
feminism says it's good.
I think what we should do is, Alex, you should go to a college campus and ask women if women need men. And when they say no, say, "Oh, thank God," and then pull out like one of those full body suits used to climb in the sewers and hand it to her and be like, "We got a serious problem in the sewer, and ain't no man wants to do it. So, lady, it's your job. You're gonna climb around in human waste and you're gonna start digging dead rats out of pipes. But you don't need no man, right? Well, guess what? Women don't do that job."
No,
Well, it's the
gender
word-
roles are real. Go ahead.
It's the word need, right? Women are like, I can't need a man. I can't need anything from men. Like, of course, people need each other. That's why we have communities. It's not a scary thing. It's not a comment on your character. It's that feminism has told women that if you say you need a man, that means that you are weak and
woman.
like whatever else. Like it's so toxic to their psyche, and I think ultimately that's why they all look at this language and say like I wonder if there's a way to phrase that question where they'd be like, no, of course he should be around. And they hear the word need and they're like, I can't say that. That's anti-feminist.
I think it comes down to pride. No one wants to admit that they have faults. No one wants to admit that they need help sometimes. It comes down to pride. We are a culture that we are perfect people and there is nothing wrong with what I'm doing. Even the wrong things that I'm doing are not wrong.
Yeah.
You know, I always just try to be, whenever I can, encourage people who are trying to get fit. Go to a gym.
That's
and
the
if-
best place to meet somebody.
But if there's a dude who's working out and you can tell that he knows what he's doing and you're out of shape and you've never worked out before and you ask for advice, that dude will feel like $1 million
Yeah.
to share his expertise. It's like every guy's dream to be complimented because they never get complimented. There's the meme where it's like the woman says, I asked my guy friend when was the last time he got complimented. And he was like, I've never been complimented. And it's like women don't realize that guys do not get compliments unless they like lift a boulder or win a competition and get a gold medal or something. But you walk into that gym and you see a guy and he's clearly successful at his workout routine. You're like, hey man, could you give me a few pointers on how to, do the lifting right? Like, what am I supposed to do? He's going to be like, yes, super excited. And that's true for probably most sports. Like, And pick a sport. You want to play pickleball? I bet you show up. There's going to be a dude there and he's be like, yeah, let's play pickleball. This is great. I'll show you everything. Because that's it. Communities, it's not as hard. Like, you just got to go outside and you got to talk to people.
My jiu-jitsu gym's just like that, Gracie Bradenton. Like, we love when people come in because we practice, we train 3 or 4 days a week. When we have someone new come in, we get excited because they're like, man, that was awesome. Show me that. And then you spend years with these people training them. It's great.
You're like, you've been doing jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks, and then someone walks in and they're like, can you teach me something? You're like, yes, I can, actually. I've been doing this for 2 weeks.
Well, the worst thing, and I think it goes, is like, it's a nuclear family. The fact that most people.
The worst thing is the nuclear family. I agree.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's. I was going to
Tim's
say I don't know if it's the worst thing
anti-family.
ever. But because these kids are born without a dad or without a mom or whatever for whatever reason, and I mean, you're going to be screwed up. You're going to have daddy issues if you're a girl, and then maybe you start OnlyFans if your dad's in your life, and then if you're a guy, you know, raised without your mom, you're probably going to be like, I don't know, maybe a anti-woman. It's just, I think that's the problem, is that we don't have enough two-parent. Yeah, I mean, we don't have enough two-parent homes.
Well, think about no-fault divorce in our country, to where kids are being raised in these unstable households, and it is the destabilization, 100% of the nuclear family that is. I mean, the next generation, when it comes to dating, if they grew up in a divorced household, they already go into their next relationship like, I don't know if this is forever, and it's really sad.
Yeah, I mean, my parents got divorced, and that's why I'm scared to death to get married. So yeah, I'm screwed up.
That's like a real
That's a real thing.
Is this a conversation you had with your wife when you guys were getting married? Like, divorce? Are we going to get divorced? Like, how did you approach that? I have to defer to the married person in the room.
So we had actually already been divorced, both of us. So I'm actually on my second marriage. We've been together now for 14 years. And when we met each other, we both got married very young. And we didn't really know how to have relationships. When we did meet, it was very much like, look, I'm not looking to get married. I'm looking just to meet someone, say hi. We didn't even hold hands because we were just friends, right? When we talk about divorce, we talk about what makes it work, what makes it last. If we have an argument, disagreement, it always starts with this. Is this the thing that's going to make you leave me? Because if not, be nice. Don't call me names. Let's talk this through. And it seems to help quite a bit. But divorce is never on the table, ever. We made a commitment to each other, and that's what we're going to do.
Did your first wife reach out after you went viral for stealing that lectern? She had to.
Did she resurface?
She had to resurface.
I will say.
What have you become, Adam?
I will say this, that she was reached out to by multiple sources, and
No.
she was, and she didn't say anything. No one said anything bad about me, because maybe I'm just a nice guy.
That's cool. You are a very nice guy. There's nothing bad to say. I'm not kissing your ass, but I mean, you're a really nice guy. I mean, so
On
Just a fact check.
the way
Fact
here,
check.
he changed a tire for a little old lady who got a
no,
flat.
you did not.
I'm kidding, dude.
Oh, I was about to say. Oh my God.
I
mean,
did
that would've
cut
been
her
great
off,
if
though.
you
She
did
was
that.
going very slow.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about J6. So we have this story here from Julie Kelly. This is huge. The Supreme Court has just ruled that the obstruction charges no good. This means the Department of Justice has unlawfully prosecuted 350 plus Americans for their participation in January 6th, a flagrant abuse of the law to punish those who protested Biden's election and criminalized political dissent. Now, you know a lot about this, my good friend Lectern guy. And this was the felony charge they were trying to get to put everyone in prison for decades, because a lot of people got misdemeanor charges. This one was the felony. And now, what happens? I mean, you're not a lawyer, but have you followed this?
I have. So I think the way the 1512 read is that you would have to destroy documents, ballots, things that would actually stop the vote from going through, stop an actual proceeding. That's not what happened. A lot of these judges knew that, and they knew they didn't have standing to do this, but they did it anyway. Did not care. Where we are now is there are a lot of people who have already finished their sentences. They're already done. They've already spent 3 years. Brandon Fellows is one of these people.
With a felony?
Had the felony, did 3 years, he's done. Now he's on supervised release, and now just got out 30-something days ago. And what are we going to do for him? What can we do for him? He's already served his entire time. You can't sue the DOJ. You can't sue these judges. They have immunity. There is no restoration for these people. What about Matthew Perna, who took his life? How do we help these people? We can't. The damage has been done. Moving forward, what we see the judge is already talking about is stacking the misdemeanors and then adding more time that way instead. So Eric Holder had a memo to the judges where he said, we're going to take the worst charge and then the sentencing guidelines will be done on that. And that's how things were going. Now that they removed this, they're just going to find misdemeanors, stack them together so sentences are longer. This is retribution.
Yeah.
And they will continue to move forward. They will find new things. You can be creative.
That's crazy.
This case is really interesting because it's over 300 people who are affected by this, including, I think it's like 250, including President Donald Trump, who are facing these charges. Their legal battle is ongoing. And I think you're right. There are people, I mean, I don't know if they could sue for wrongful imprisonment or whatever else, but there are very few paths forwards, especially if you've already had to pay the price of defending yourself. I mean, the burden of legal fees in America is crazy. I did find this ruling really interesting for a number of reasons. One of them was that Ketanji Whoa.
I'm trying to get it.
No.
If you hit me in the face with that on the live podcast.
Alex is coming with a
Yeah,
my
I'm
pillow.
ready.
I was making a really good point. That fly is here to thwart me. Okay, well, Tim hunts the
I have an
fly.
electric fly swatter.
Get it.
The Ketanji Brown Jackson, who is typically considered a liberal justice, joined with Roberts and 4 other conservative justices to join the majority position and say, like, this is not how this is supposed to be interpreted. We have to, you can't make it a broad interpretation of this phrase. You have to make it narrow. Otherwise, this is incorrect. And I found that really fascinating. And Amy Coney Barrett, who people were all like, oh, another Trump appointee conservative. She's the one who joined with Kagan and Sotomayor. So it is interesting that the Supreme Court gets a lot of flack for being ideologically split. And that's one of the big fears, that if Trump is elected, he'll appoint more conservatives. But actually, a lot of the court is really trying to interpret these issues in a way that I think would be good for America.
Yeah, but forget the Supreme Court. I mean, I guess they did a couple good things recently, but also they said that, you know, the government can tell social media companies what to say.
know.
So I mean,
Sort
They
of.
didn't say, they said it doesn't have standing, and you can't try it
Yeah,
And there's still a couple cases that are pending, so
I think ACB has young kids, and we have seen protests outside of Supreme Court Justice Holmes.
Yeah.
And I think she probably is afraid. I think it is very, very simple. She has a family. She is afraid. When it comes to Ketanji, I think she sees it as the implications and the precedent you're setting by having this charge brought and then prosecute people. Imagine when their side protests again, and we're in a position of power. Are we allowed to use it in the same way? They're setting a precedent that can be used against them as well.
yeah, but it's been totally weaponized. They tried to burn the federal courthouse in Portland 19 days in a row, and I think that person literally got probation.
That's because we were in charge, and that's not how we roll.
Yeah, but like supervisors of the FBI or CIA, they're the ones that are gonna be like, oh, if you know, do this, and they're talking to district attorneys. So it only takes like a few high-power people to basically weaponize the Department of Justice against people. So until we get out the deep state or whatever it is, they can always let the criminals go for George Floyd riots and then get all the white people for January 6th. So I don't know how we fix that.
Would you have seen the people from BLM prosecuted the same way that J6ers were prosecuted? Because I wouldn't.
well,
I actually wouldn't. I don't
Did you
think that's
want that
justice.
Well, right now, actually, there's a handful of Antifa. Andy No's been covering this. They're going to prison, but it is not as insane as the J6ers. Like, it's surprising to see they're actually giving a couple of years to these guys for their violent riots, but you got people who walked in a building facing 20 years until this.
And Adam, you said they reconvened and got the certification. They certified the election within 3 hours. So how could they charge them with a felony obstruction when they didn't obstruct anything? I mean, I guess they.
How can they charge
delayed it.
someone with theft for moving furniture 20 yards and not taking anything?
And that was
They
your
charged
proper
you with
charge.
theft?
Yeah.
Felony theft.
That's ridiculous.
Felony theft. It was $100,000 worth of attorney fees we had to pay out of pocket. We couldn't collect a single dime. That came out of our pocket. And if we hadn't had those attorneys, would have been in prison.
I mean, there are people, Brandon Strzok is one of them. He said, you know, I took a plea deal because I just couldn't, I didn't think I had any other options. I think there are so many people who in these positions are being hit with these crazy charges, and they are just saying, like, I have to play ball with the government because I don't have the resources to fight this. And
Every
I think
plea
that,
deal is signed. It is coercion from a J6er that takes plea deal. It is coercion. It's not a plea deal. You are being coerced. You sign this under duress.
Yep.
That is how plea deals work out of the federal government. You get charged by the feds, take the deal because they will give you a trial tax. You will end up serving so much more time. And we've seen that. You go to court in D.C. as a J6er. You say, no, I didn't do that. You will get extra charges. You will spend more time in prison.
Yeah, it makes me sick. My buddy Luke Coffey, he's in that same situation right now, and they charge him with assaulting a police officer because he had a crutch, and he basically touched their crutch to their riot shields. And, I mean, his life could hopefully not. I pray to God that it's not. I love Luke. Never been arrested before, no criminal history. And he's looking at, 10 to 20 years in prison for being there. And like I said, he didn't even hit anybody. So I don't know. It's very challenging. That's my, I guess, one critique. I love Donald Trump. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'm riding not with Biden. I'm riding with Donald Trump. But I would like to hear him say that he's going to do more for J6. And I know he has mentioned it. It's not like he hasn't mentioned it, but I would like to see him do more because I just hate to see people that I personally know lives are ruined. And I think Trump maybe can pardon him once he gets in, but I'd like to hear him say that.
He had said at that town hall that CNN hosted that he would, he wants to review all the cases and pardon as many people as possible because he thinks a lot of people are. I mean, and like I think we all agree there are probably some people who like technically could get a misdemeanor trespassing charge or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would love to see Trump announce like tomorrow, here are the people who are going to be on my like J6 case review panel and hit the ground running the day he's inaugurated, right? Because I am worried that it will be 2 years in, we finally return, and I just don't think we can leave people who are in jail for January 6th stuff suspended for that long.
But why a review panel?
Well, that's what he said he wanted to do. He wanted to review every single case.
I
think
reject
that's fair.
No, I know he should just say blanket pardon.
Well, and not to throw shade at you, Adam, but if they did charge you like a misdemeanor or something and you had to do a little fine or anything, I think that would have been fair, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, and then we wouldn't be in this process.
I disagree.
No, my wife.
I do disagree.
You don't even think you should have got like a trespassing maybe or whatever, a slap on the wrist metaphorically.
Okay, let me ask you. When you showed up there, were there barricades saying "Do not enter"?
No.
What, like no trespassing signs?
No.
You just walked up the stairs and walked to the building?
Yep, doors were open, walked right through them.
You can't charge someone. Yeah. I've been through this, and this is what really pisses me off. Cenk Uygur yelled at me because I said, you cannot charge someone for trespassing unless they've been warned they are trespassing. And that's why there's private property all over the place with big old signs saying no trespassing. And it's why we had to do it. Because if someone can access your property, even it's private property, let's say it's 1,000 acres, and at the center of the 1,000 acres is your house, they can legally walk onto your property because you did not warn them first. So I don't think you should have got anything. They should have asked you what happened. You said, I walked and said, okay, sir, have a nice day.
I agree with you. I mean, I think this is one of the interesting things, right? Like we know from the videos that Tucker released that the shaman was just like ushered in.
Police came in.
Right. But I think part of the power of what Trump is saying, like I will review the cases, is to be able to like hold up a document and saying like, this is exactly why I don't agree with this. Here's what we're going, because if he did a blanket pardon, and I'm not saying that he shouldn't, I just know that the other side, which we will have to deal with eventually, would say like, see, corrupt dictator, let everyone out or whatever else. Like I think people who believe in the innocence of the January 6th, and we believe that there is corruption in the judicial branch or in the Department of Justice, that they are unfairly targeting these people, know that the evidence supports this, right? We know there is video evidence that there was no, barricades. We know that Trump offered all kinds of support and it was rejected. Like if you do a review and you can publish this like whatever 1,000 document, you can always refer back to it and say like, if you have a problem with the person I pardon, go back and see why we made this decision.
This is the issue I take with the left. Not every single one, but Cenk Uygur, millions of followers, tens of thousands of subscribers. I'm saying he's got subscribers and he's got paid members for his website. I said, the people who smashed the windows and stormed their way and ripped the barricades down, yes, I get that. Rioting is illegal. You get charged for that. But there were people who showed up to open green grass, sidewalk, walked up to a building where the doors were open and cops were taking selfies with people. And they were like, howdy. And they said, howdy. And they walked on in. The cops were smiling. They walked through the velvet ropes, taking pictures, and then left. And these people are going to jail. I met a couple. They got 18 months for exactly that. And when I said you cannot charge people for trespassing if they don't know, Cenk Uygur goes on this show and starts ranting about, you have broken glass everywhere, and you think you're walking through a window. And I'm like, he's lying. Because he knows the full context of what I said. The people who smashed windows go to jail. And the people who walked on the other side of the building where there was no riot, where the doors were just open, had no idea. Those people are free to go. But they lie.
Is breaking a window really? Did they go to prison for that? Federal prison for breaking a window? That seems a little excessive. And that's
I'm not even saying someone who broke a window should get federal prison. I was talking about the Proud Boys. Should they who have smashed window, climbed in, and we're laughing about it, go to jail, get arrested, and get charged? Yeah, I don't know. Was it 2 months? Or a fine for breaking a window?
They should be sentenced in the way that other people who have historically done this have been sentenced. That is justice, and that's all I'm asking for. I'm not saying that everyone should get a blanket pardon. I've never said that, never will. If you genuinely hit a cop, struck an officer, you should be sentenced in a way that if you did it to anyone else in any other state, that sentence would work out. It should be that. That's justice. That is fair.
I agree. Well, we got one more major story, ladies and gentlemen. This one's a bit more esoteric. It's my word of the week. Supreme Court strikes down Chevron, curtailing power of federal agencies. Why this matters? When they tried implementing a vaccine mandate at the federal level for all companies with at least, 100 employees, it was under this precedent set by the Supreme Court, I think in 1984, that federal agencies can interpret the law as they choose. The ATF has used it to create bans on things like they tried banning the pistol braces, saying, you know what, we believe this is the case. And we argued this on the show. You can't just decide a law is. But that was the precedent. Supreme Court said no. Now it's going to be back to the courts. They say, by a vote of 6-3, the justices overruled the landmark decision Chevron v. Natural Resources Defense Council, which gave rise to the doctrine known as the Chevron Doctrine. Under that doctrine, if Congress had not directly addressed the question at the center of the dispute, a court was required to uphold the agency's interpretation of the statute as long as it was reasonable. But in a 35-page ruling, Chief Justice John Roberts said it was fundamentally misguided. Elena Kagan dissented in an opinion joined by Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Notice it's always the evil justices, the left ones who are trying to. In what reality is it constitutional to accept that a bureaucratic agency can make law? The ATF said, we hereby decree pistol braces illegal, and if you own them, you will go to prison. So you know what we had to do when they passed this rule? I said, okay, I talked to my lawyer, and he says, take the braces off and remove them. Separate them from the domicile in which they are stored, and then you are allowed to have them, just not attached to the weapon. So I have to make these changes based on the federal government bureaucracy decreeing that is not how this country is supposed to operate. Surprise, surprise, the liberal justices are evil. But there you go. There you go. They say, although the Chevron decision upheld Reagan-era EPA interpretation of the Clean Air Act, blah, 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 was generally hailed by conservatives at the time, the ruling eventually became a target of those seeking to curtail the administrative state. And so here we are. This may be, ladies and gentlemen, one of the biggest changes to happen in government, one of the biggest victories for those that believe in freedom and oppose big government. The idea that the agencies now cannot act of their own whim. Did you get it?
No, dang it, I'm too slow with the pillow. Sorry.
But now it's your turn to talk. So
we're talking about the three-letter agencies. Fly, F-L-Y, should die. No. I don't know. The Ketanji Brown Jackson doesn't even know what a woman is. She's not a biologist. So,
basically, this means if the ATF wants to ban something, they can't just do it. They can't issue an executive rule where they're like, you can't have. They said you can't have short-barreled rifles. So we think pistol braces are. Nope. Now they're going to have to be like, we can't do that. Congress has to act, and the courts have to decide.
The next is to repeal the NFA completely, because
Hey, right,
all
why
gun
not?
laws are fake and gay.
Well, I think I'm hoping that Hunter Biden can actually get a lot of this overturned. If Hunter Biden, I got him.
you got it.
I got him!
I saw it zap.
Somewhere Mike Pence
hear
is
that?
crying.
Yeah.
Did you hear the snap?
Yeah.
Saw it.
Anyway, what were we talking about? I got the fly.
Hunter Biden's going to save gun laws in America.
Yeah, someone explain that. I'm going to check on the fly.
Okay, I will, but I any two-way person in the audience knows I'm going to fumble this, but I support you guys. I hope you're doing well. So Hunter Biden was convicted of falsely filling out this federal form because it said, are you addicted to drugs? And he said, no, not currently, even though he had just gotten out of rehab and was about to go buy crack cocaine, but I digress. But the argument is that the form is unconstitutional. It violates Second Amendment rights, which I actually sympathize with enormously. And it's this weird dynamic now where Hunter Biden has been convicted of something, but actually a lot of conservatives feel as though the crime on which he was convicted is actually unconstitutional. And so hypothetically, he is now, his appeal on this case, which again, hypothetically could go all the way to the Supreme Court and challenge this law that he has been convicted on, would be backed by 2A people, but have Hunter Biden as the poster child as he turns around and says, get away from me, I'm a Democrat. It's fascinating.
So this thing's got a button on it, and when you press it, there's metal on the outside protecting you, but in the inside. So the fly was still alive when I went down there.
Oh, wow.
It was trying to get up. And so you press the button, and I whacked it, and you could see the spark. And now it's done.
There was an additional
I've saved the show.
There was an additional Supreme Court case for 2A rights where, again, heroes, unsung heroes, right? Hunter Biden shouldn't be supposed to where he is. Another case was
You don't get to pick them.
you don't get to pick them. They just, yeah. So another case was there was a guy, domestic abuse, red flag. They took his guns, but that's not. You can't do that. That's not been passed, right?
Well,
So that's also a case they were hearing, and that might get overturned as well. Or even if you hit a girl, they can't come take your gun.
Well, it was that. So he had the case. At least when I read this one, because it was a man in Texas, and he had hypothetically. I'm afraid to speak on it too much because I don't know what the convictions have been like. But he had been, allegedly beaten his girlfriend up in a parking lot, and then threatened her with a gun afterwards, saying, if I'll attack you if you tell anyone. And he hadn't been convicted of anything, but there had been a domestic violence restraining order issued. And so the question was, like, if you have a DV restraining order, should you be allowed to have a gun? And Clarence Thomas was the lone dissent there. And he said, look, if he hasn't been convicted, we can't do anything, right? It's different if you have been convicted of a violent crime versus if you are just hypothetically accused of something. And I actually thought that was interesting because obviously the instinct is to be like, dude, if you beat up your girlfriend, you're a terrible person and you're a threat. But if you haven't been convicted, you are presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah, they took all of my guns. Didn't even have a violent charge. All of them. And this was
Did you
during
get
the
them
time.
back?
Oh, yes. It took me quite a while. Now I buy a new gun every month.
Wow.
Your grocery bill and gun bill must
Yeah, I
be
know. You got a gun for
Groceries
every
and guns,
kid.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, listen, the Second Amendment should be protected. These red flag laws, or Eye Patch McCain loves the red flag laws. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Joe Biden even says our guns are pointless because they can shoot us with F-16s. So I don't know.
Well, I love when he says stuff like that because it's the stupidest thing imaginable.
Yeah.
Are we on F-35s now?
Was it F-35?
Like,
I don't even
no,
know.
because
but
he's mentioning 16s, but those were like 3 decades ago. We're on 35s now.
But I just like to, whenever they bring that up, I'm just like, Afghanistan called, Joe. Yeah, it's a bunch of goat herders in caves. It is ground forces that win wars. You can clear the battlefield. You can gain control. You can take out infrastructure with powerful siege weapons. But you need human beings to do the groundwork. Biden has no idea what he's talking about. It's the stupidest talking point ever.
Well, what about all those videos in Russia and Ukraine of them using drones to kill each other? Do you think that's the future of warfare?
That will not secure. So sending in, it is. And I warned the government. I literally warned the government 13 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was part of the North American Drone Coalition or whatever. We were doing some of the earliest drone work with these consumer grade drones that we were hacking to broadcast video. And I got asked by the U.S. government and universities who were trying to figure out how consumer grade drones are going to affect everything. So we were trying to figure out, what do we do? How do we handle this? How should they operate? What are the rules? And the first thing I told them was, I think you guys need to consider what happens when someone with a range of 3 miles launches one of these things into a city. There's no way to stop it. And if it's carrying something, let's just say dangerous, like, how do you deal with that? And they were just like, we don't know. And I'm like, I got to be honest, you can't. Once that thing is launched and it's in the city, whatever they put on it, it's there. Even if you knock this thing down, if you blast it with microwaves, if you fire a net at it, if you launch confetti, if you get a tracking drone to chase after it, whatever it brought is there. So yes, however, let's say you got a nuclear power plant and you want to secure that. Ain't no drone's going to secure it for you. You need human beings. Now, drones make it easy to deal with human beings, but humans are going to create. I think actually combating drone warfare will be not too difficult. Scrambling, hacking, frying. You can easily get. Blinding these things. They don't fly well at night. It's very difficult. So I think there's ways to counter it. But if you want to secure a nuclear power plant, you're going to need some humans to go in the building and gain access to it. And that's all that matters. Your drone's not going to be able to do it.
What about AI taking people's jobs? What's a bigger threat, drone bombs or artificial intelligence running the world, Tim?
I think AI is the apocalypse. I think
it's a demonic supercomputer, basically.
I don't know about that. I just think that what's going to happen is, we were talking about OnlyFans earlier and how these women are basically removing themselves from a productive economy and they're producing nothing. Guys are then spending money. Like there's a certain amount of food in the economy, a certain amount of money. Money is used to buy the food. It's a representation of the value of the labor, but we now it now represents debt instead. And then money is created upon issuance of debt. So we're in this wacky system. This is why we have weird inflation. They set it up a long time ago. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But I can tell you this, at the very least, you cannot exist in a system. This is a lesson for AOC as well when she calls for deficit spending. If the output is greater than the input, your system collapses. Thank you and have a nice day. So the issue with AI, much like OnlyFans, is that you are going to have people, you're going to have, like, one of the first things I see happening is someone's going to create an AI that will give you whatever you want for money. And what's being value? What's the value? Like, what are you getting from it? Nothing. So let's start here. AI can mass produce photos and videos. The videos are getting incredible. And we're a year away from clean, clear video. Photos can already generate full text. That was a big thing they were screwing up with last year. Photographers, for music, background music and stock music, gone. I will never. It's done. It happened. We used to, 10 years ago, I remember going to these audio libraries. Epidemic Sound was a big one for YouTube. You'd spend X amount of dollars per month for a subscription to music you could use in your videos. Don't need it anymore. For free, or for like 10 cents, I go to suno.com and I type in hip hop, electric beat, and coffee commercial. And then it gives me a song. It's mine. I can use it. Nobody made it. Whoever has the AI is going to get the money, but it's going to start, this process starts centralizing revenue into the hands of a single corporation or one company that can produce all media. It's going to eliminate tons of jobs. People are going to end up, we're 3-4 years away. VR has gotten so great. You are going to open up your VR. You're going to put your headset on. You're going to be in your like you have a bedroom in your house. Maybe it's like 20 feet by 20 feet or whatever. You draw the lines in your VR so you know where your walls are. And then you say, AI game, give me a game where I'm a sheriff in the Wild West and the bandits are coming. And give me a good storyline with a great love interest. The video game itself will render and you'll be in VR. People are going to just disappear from the real world. They're already making plugins where you can play Skyrim, where your companion is plugged into ChatGPT and you can talk to them while you're playing. So it used to be that you had this stupid companion running around with you and they'd be like, yes, my liege. And you'd be like, carry my stuff. And they would go, okay. And that's it. And they'd have some, my family once came from the south, but then they moved to the north, and it's just nonsense. Now you can actually turn the game on, talk into the microphone and say, companion, come over here and tell me what the weather is like. And they'll be like, I don't quite know the weather. And you'll say, what do you want to do right now? I don't know. What do you want to do? They'll talk to you because you're just talking to the AI. This is going to replace people's human interaction. All of these people who are going on OnlyFans, these guys who are not getting married and having kids, imagine what's going to be like for the OnlyFans models when they can't get jobs either because the guys are like, I got digital girlfriend. We've already got the AI girlfriends. They're going to plug themselves in and they're going to be like, this feels good. Life is scary and hard. I can't do it. In VR, everyone's my friend and they love me.
What was that Joaquin Phoenix movie where he's married to his phone?
Her?
Yeah, her. That's what it's going to be like.
Yeah.
Where you're going to have some artificial girlfriend.
We're already there. We pulled up the AI girlfriend stuff a couple weeks ago.
Match that with the Apple Vision Pro. There you go.
And the Apple Vision Pro is going to put her in your house.
Yep.
And you're going to put it on, and then she's going to be standing there, and she's going to be like, how was work, honey? And like
show me your boobs, honey.
But for Alex, it's going to be like, it's going to be this anime waifu with cat ears.
Yeah.
And then, that's because, and then he's going to be.
Human cat hybrid.
That's right.
And a big old booty.
The thing is
huge, big butt and big boobs.
Speak Spanish.
has to be Latin.
Tim, genuine question about the video game AI. Genuine question. Do you think you will be forced to have at least one trans character in the game?
No.
You can just edit that out. You can just, it doesn't sound bad.
All the woke stuff's gone.
Because the AI is catered to you.
All the woke stuff is gone. Like, dude, already going on to Mid-Journey and typing in, generate me a photo of this. Now you've got the video stuff popping up and it's getting better and better. You can ask it for anything. Like, artists are gone. All of this digital media job stuff is going to be gone because anyone can generate whatever they want. There's going to be a ton of people. Look, I'm telling you what we're already seeing. What we're already seeing is video games became a lot of people got addicted to it. Hikikomori, you guys familiar with that? The Japanese, it refers to Japanese men who lock themselves in their bedrooms. We call them NEETs, not in education, employment, or training. Employment, education, or training, NEET. It's guys who live in their bedroom, live in their parents' basement, play video games all day and do nothing. They're, many of them incels perhaps. They don't know how to meet people. They're antisocial. What's going to happen when you give someone a VR headset with first AI-generated video? That's the first thing that's going to be crazy because people are going to be like, I'll try it out. They'll put it on and say, show me a virtual forest. It's sunset a thunderstorm is rolling in, and there's a treehouse. We go into the treehouse, we hang out, and then I watch a movie. Rendered. People are going to be, dude, think about what it's going to be like when you put the headset on you and you say, render me a video of I'm in a log cabin with one side is all glass. It's snowing. There's a fireplace. I'm sitting on my couch, and then put a TV on the wall playing Die Hard. And it does.
How much of this do you think is going to become people trying to relive moments they've had in the past?
Oh,
and
dude.
just being
A
disappointed
lot.
because it's never that, right?
Bro,
like you're describing someone who's operating with a certain level of imagination, but I think a lot of people are just going to be searching for something that they loved, that they experienced, and it's gone forever.
It's going to be a dad and his son is, he's in his 50s, his kid's late 20s, gets in a car accident and dies. And then he's going to put on the headset and be like, he's going to be like, GPT, compile social media user, Johnny63, 1981, and
It's a Black Mirror episode.
and Facebook, and then it's going to render it. And then his son's going to appear in front of him and go, hey, Dad, what's going on? And he's going to be crying, being like, son, I can't believe. And he's going to every day go in there and try and never let go.
I'm going to feel bad for the dad who's trying to get his OnlyFans daughter back. Her whole social media history is like this persona she built online, and he goes into this like virtual world trying to connect with someone who is, not who they presented themselves to be on social media.
There's a movie, I think it's called The Nines. Let me check. Is it like Nines or something with Ryan Reynolds? I watched it a long time ago. What is it called? It's called The Nines. I recommend you guys watch that one. I'm going to spoil it for you because it's from 2007. So sorry. Spoiler alert. So Ryan Reynolds, basically the gist of the movie, they tell you in the end, is that all life is ranked from 1 through 9. And humans on Earth are 7s. And then there are entities that exist beyond them, 8 and 9. Ryan Reynolds plays a 9, 2 degrees higher. I think it's humans are 7s. I haven't seen this movie since 2007. But basically, there's Megan McCarthy, I think, is in it. I could be wrong. And they're friends. And there's this nasty woman always trying to tell her to stop hanging out with Ryan Reynolds. It turns out Ryan Reynolds and this other woman are 9s, the higher plane of existence. They live in this reality. He suffered a devastating loss, so he created this lesser reality of Earth to live in to drown away his sorrows and his fears. It's essentially what we're talking about right now. People are going to abandon the real world because of pain and because of pleasure. And it's like, dude, I'm just telling you, man, I have fun playing Fallout, but it gets boring, right? Imagine if you could have a new Fallout video game every day if you wanted to. You could just go to the AI and say, that was fun, but make it so that I'm in Fallout, but it's also, I don't know, put giant grizzly bears riding tanks. You just do whatever you want.
But it's not real.
Yeah.
But
Like
the
at the
thing
end of
is,
the day,
it's
it's
gonna feel
never real.
But kids are going to be born into this machine, and they're not going to know anything else. And for a lot of young men, they're going to be like, I tried meeting a woman and I got yelled at and called a creep. They're going to go into their room, they're going to lock the door, and they're going to say, make me a girlfriend. And then it's going to generate it. And they're going to be like, this is easy and it feels good.
Because they're escaping the reality that exists today. I mean, I was watching this movie. It's called Don't Worry, Darling. And this husband and wife are plugged in on their bed with like these things in their eyeballs, and they're able to live this alternate reality. They're in like this horrible apartment in like New York or something with like rats crawling everywhere. But then plugged in, they're able to live this life of having money and being able to explore. It's like a horror movie. But I think it just depicts how real it can be, especially with the Apple Vision Pro. Put that with Neuralink, and kids are going to be hooked on the dopamine. I mean, they already are doom scrolling every single day for multiple hours. Make that the new reality where you can choose what you want your life to be. I mean, it's live off government funding, and you can stay in your house plugged in all day in the pod, exactly, and just continue to consume more and more media. I think it's honestly going to be closer in our future than we think, and AI is already taking a multitude of jobs. Like, no one's going to need to have a job anymore.
If Neuralink read-write capabilities becomes a real thing, you will eat the bugs and you'll be happy. You know why? You go to the restaurant with your friends with your Neuralink plugged in, and you're gonna say, we'll take the number 1 because there's only 1, 2, and 3. That's the only items on the menu. And then what are you gonna see? She's gonna walk out with this big, thick lasagna with sauce, just Parmesan cheese. It's gonna put down in front of you. You're gonna be like, oh man, my favorite. You're going to cut into it. It's going to be the most delicious lasagna you have ever had. And then the guy outside who refused to integrate with Neuralink is watching you eat a big bowl of cricket mash. And you're going,
You're explaining they live, yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you have to leave for that, but what's worse, you have and you just described the plot to the Matrix when Spider plugs back into the Matrix.
And he's eating the steak.
Eats the steak. But what's worse, AI-addicted daughter or fentanyl-addicted son?
Oh, that's a good.
What's worse for our culture?
Fentanyl, it kills you. AI, you can be removed from and deprogrammed.
Well, I mean, theoretically, you could be like a functioning alcoholic. There's probably functioning fentanyl users.
I think with fentanyl, though, like the dosage isn't secure, right? Like alcoholics on some level know
How much whiskey
how much,
or
whereas
vodka,
like whiskey, like with fentanyl, you really don't know how strong it is, and any amount, it can be fatal at a very, very small amount. I think it's a really good question, though, because I think ultimately what you're also asking is, we believe that we will be an addicted culture, and what vice are we choosing to go with? And it makes me think about what you said before with like the physical connection. I think the AI addicted daughter is ultimately numbing herself in some way, the same way the fentanyl addicted son is, and that's what we have to sort of fight against. The idea that we would avoid our problems rather than confront them.
This is a lot of blackpilling, but I will tell you right now, I'm a positive guy. I always try to stay positive. I'm not going to let that happen in my family. And I think that what we need to do is start having conversations of how can we stop that from happening? What productive, positive things can we do in our community around us, with our friends, our family? How do we change this? Because I'm all for slowing it down and maybe even taking a step back.
I pitched a show treatment. I talked to the Daily Wire guys about it. We talked about it in this show like a year ago. It's like a year and a half ago. The general idea for the show is it's some point in the future. There's only one city left on Earth with the size of about 10 million people. All the other cities everywhere in the world, it's like ruin, decay. It's like the apocalypse, right? Overgrown, trees, vines, animals taken over. Everything's just gone. But there's this one city left. Nobody knows exactly how civilization collapsed, but they are rebuilding. And their technology is a little bit like ours, slightly more advanced. One day, a scout battalion from the last city goes out and they're, searching the ruins of other cities. They come across these tall, slender, humanoid beings with chrome helmets and white suits. And when they engage, the beings just raise a hand and then boom, an energy blast just vaporizes one of the guys. And they open fire. The bullets do nothing. They run. They scream. The feed is then sent back to the main city. And they're like, are these things aliens, interdimensional beings? Are they what wiped out all of humanity? And then it turns out, long story short, twist, the last city is a collection of humans who never integrated into Neuralink. And the reason why cities have collapsed is not because the world ended. It's because one by one, people migrated underground into the pods to network into the machine. And over time, the economy became dominated by digital interface work. There's no reason to live in the real world anymore. Food is mass produced in biolabs where they clone it and make it from raw materials.
What about humans? You clone humans? That's how they procreate?
They're all basically inside the pods, and when they meet in the pod universe, it takes their genetic material and makes the baby and puts it in a pod. And then the humans in the last city are basically rural folk who never integrated, who weren't networked in. And the reason why they have no idea what happened, it's not because like the Earth ended. The people who live in the pod have the full chain of human events in human history. It's because if right now you took Thomas Jefferson and transported him to the year 2024 right now, he'd have a hard time figuring out what happened in that debate. Why? All of the commentary is online. And because he does not use his technology nor understand what internet is or a smartphone, he's looking for a periodical of some sort somewhere, and he can only find a little bit of information about it. So in the last city, they're like, the world just seems to have ended. But for humanity, they're like, no, we got rid of the internet. We started doing all of our news articles in Neuralink, in neurospace. So it's like, we can look up the archive of news from 2077. It's just in neurospace, and you guys were outside of it. And then the beings they find are actually just every 70 or so years, maintenance crews have to come up from the pods to manage and maintain corrosion and things like that, and then go back down. And this leads to the conflict.
Is this an animated series you pitch?
Oh, I just pitched the general story idea. I was like, I don't know.
No, I mean, it sounds pretty interesting. That'd be
Look, you
hard
just
to
have to
film.
wait them out while they clean up and then go back down. Like, I'd still rather be the farmer who's not in the Neuralink.
But
Do you think they will tolerate people like us? I guess that is the question.
So that's why I said they just vaporize the guy with like the technology is more advanced. These things are just they're like the last city is basically a bunch of savages with bows and arrows as far as they're concerned.
I guess the premise question I have is, will we be able to exist the way we want to? Let's say if you want to get a Neuralink, you want to live that life, go ahead. At some point, like now, it is impossible to do anything without this.
Exactly. You have no choice.
You have no choice but to have this. Is there going to be a moment where you don't have a choice?
Absolutely.
Yes. And that's how I came up with the idea. The idea being, one by one, people are like, you show up for a job interview, you're on a Zoom call, and they're like, or you apply online and they're like, okay, well, this job's only available for, our interview process is over Neuralink. And you're like, well, I don't have that. So no interview for you. You walk into a store and most of the sales are online distribution. They don't really do in-person sales anymore, but they still have some remnants. And you say, I'm wondering if I could apply for a job. And they're like, yeah. Well, we are looking for someone. Simple job. It's a warehouse storage. If you're interested, pays $79 an hour because in the future with Biden inflation. And then the guy goes, yeah, absolutely. And they go, okay, just what's your Neuro username? And he goes, oh, I have a cell phone. Like, you're not a Neuro. We can't hire you. How are we supposed to get in touch with you? It's like you can call me on my phone. Call you on your phone? Oh, come on, man. Imagine if right now you walked into a place, applied for a job, and they say, what's your phone number? And you went, I don't have one. They'd be like, okay, well, what? Should I send you a letter? You're like, but back in the day, there were no phones. Like that's how things were done.
There are a lot of corporate companies where you have to be able to have access to the internet to see your schedule, right? Because it goes out through an app or through the website or wherever else. Like that's not how things operated in a pre-internet era. But I also wonder if there will be people who would just sort of be like, okay, I'm opting out. Like
there are people who don't have
to build
phones.
this city that you're to build this city you're talking about. Like people were like, well, I'm just gonna go this way now.
Yep, I'm gonna start a cult. I'm gonna buy some land. We're going to be the Lecternites.
We got to go to Super Chat, so smash that like button, subscribe to this channel. 1 like equals 1. Biden's brain is broken. I got it. And
He's contagious, apparently.
That is a tongue twister.
Biden's brain is broken. We could make a better one than that. Become a member at timcast.com to support our work. It's going to be a wild election season. We're super excited. Shout out to everybody on Rumble X as well, watching live. Here we go. First Super Chat, Tim Jake says, shout out to my parents, Jean and Bonnie. Tomorrow we will celebrate their 67th wedding anniversary. Love you, Mom and Dad.
Congratulations.
I love messages like this. Also, I wonder what age they got married, right? I know we didn't talk about it, but Thomas Massey, his wife just passed away.
35 years.
35 years because they got together in high school, right? Like if I want to be with someone for 35 years, I'm going to be past retirement. Anyways, so get married as soon as possible. As soon as you know they're the one.
Condolences to Congressman Massey. I can't believe when I saw it.
It's really
sorry
sad.
to hear. Yeah. Shane Wilder says, even with the easy win last night and the SCOTUS ruling today, we must stay vigilant. As we are not through November, we still have to win the election. I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, the Chevron decision, all these SCOTUS rulings, they didn't rule on immunity yet, right?
No, they haven't.
That means it's an extended term. I mean, it was supposed to have wrapped up. Jeez, wow.
The thing is, I love this message because that was one of the things when you were showing that chart and Biden's so low. I'm like, oh my gosh, all the conservatives are about to get complacent. They're about to not go to the polls.
They have to. They have to go to the polls.
All right. This person has no username. They said, number of blinks Joe Biden had during the entire 90-minute debate, 34. People were pointing that I saw that. People were saying he's not blinking. Yeah.
They said he wasn't
Only
blinking.
34 blinks in an hour.
He wasn't blinking. I can tell you that.
He's probably so much Botox, maybe he can't blink. No, seriously, I don't know.
No, there were moments when he was like thinking about something, he'd rapidly blink. Like maybe he just stores them all up.
S.A. Federale says, I was expecting a ton of YouTube bans in desperation. Major white pill seeing you all here for the news, mainly because of the fight that you put up. Thank you all. Throttle to the floor. Get them. Well, look, CNN lied to everybody. They said we're not offering digital streams except for our embeddable YouTube player. And then guess what? All the major networks had a live stream on their own YouTube channels. Or I don't know about all, but many of them did. So it's like, okay, that was not true. You were lying. So everyone ended up doing it. Uncle Gug says, and all that remains, let you go. Is there another tweet there that I'm missing or something? He just says, all that remains, let you go. It is the new song. Shout out to Phil.
Yes, I'm very proud to be part of that band. All that remains. I'm just kidding. Phil's working really hard. He goes on tour pretty soon, so we have to enjoy his time on the show.
I know he's been working his mouth a lot on that device for his breathing a lot. Have you noticed that?
His like
breathing thing?
weird
His
bubble
breathing,
thing.
yeah, because he said he's about to go on tour. I just seen those posts. Yeah. Very professional.
Tim Brackett says Timcast is number one. We did have, I think, the biggest YouTube live commentary show last night. Shout out, however, to Crowder, who had probably the biggest commentary show in general. He had like 300K or more across the board.
Amazing.
Huge show. He's too funny. I can't compete with him. I know. When I was on his show recently, he's just too funny.
It's all
He's a
such
funny
a
guy.
white pill for independent media. You
yeah.
know? I just love that.
I'm like, why can't I be funny like Steven? I'm so serious. Damn, he's good. He made some joke. I can't remember what he said, but it was just like, man, it was good.
Alex, are people born funny or serious, or is this something you can learn?
I don't know. I mean, some people say that I'm kind of like the Wish version of Steven Crowder. So
Wish version.
I'm the Temu version.
A great value.
Great value. I'll take it.
Walmart.
I can just be, what great value is. Okay, let's say you're buying regular Cheez-Its, and then you buy the Great Value Cheez-Its. The Great Value Cheez-Its are like $1 less, so I'm still pretty valuable in that sense, right? If I'm just a little bit less.
You're helping people
then-
save money too. That's
Yeah,
nice of
so
you.
I'm good. So,
Well, the reality is usually great value is the same product.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Packaged differently.
yeah, but
Right.
But that's actually not necessarily true because there are ingredients that they leave out and they make shortcuts so that it is a little bit cheaper. So the name brand is always usually better. There is
some-
a slight difference, I swear. Even if it's made by the same manufacturer, they will just change the ingredients. There always usually
Well,
is.
it could be like second pressings. You ever get a pair of second press shoes?
Well, like Costco will use like the same exact vodka as some companies, but a lot of times the Great Value brand, there is a difference.
When you're getting shirts made, the first run of shirts, it's always really nice, and then the second run, it's slightly off, and the third run, it gets worse. And so, did you guys ever buy a pack of irregular shirts? You ever see these?
No, I'm not
So I-
poor.
Thing.
Right. When you're poor and you're growing up, and you can't go to Target or Walmart to buy the $20 pack of shirts, you'd go to these. We would go to like the Mexican neighborhoods in the south side of Chicago, and you'd walk in and they have a big bin, and it's like $3, and it's like a label says irregular print, and it's when these shirt companies would make the shirts, eventually there'd be errors. They don't throw them away; they just sell them for less. And then what you do is you open it up, and like this one's sleeve's short, this one's neck is cut, and you got to like rip it open. Shirt's a shirt, man. If you don't got a shirt, what are you gonna do?
Well, it's like Hannah Claire said, like when the Dallas Cowboys are in the Super Bowl and they lose, they still print Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl T-shirts.
Yeah.
So they have to go give them to Nigeria or whatever.
And it is funny how like remember when that when ISIS was driving that guy's truck and it said like Dan's Plumbing or whatever on it. I can't remember what it said, but a video came out where it's like ISIS and they're driving some Michigan carpenter's truck, and they're like, "How did that happen?" And he's like, "I sold that. I have no idea." Weird. All right, what do we got?
Smashing.
Let's grab some super chats. Logan Thorson says, the plan for after Trump wins 2024 election should be to convince Alito, Thomas, and Roberts to retire so he can get more Trump-appointed SCOTUS justices, and all at like 35 years old.
Yeah,
That's blasphemy. You don't ever besmirch Thomas. I want him there forever.
Well, yes,
Well,
but
people who work hard for the country deserve to retire at some point, right?
Does he have kids?
Yeah, he does.
Are they good? Are they based?
I haven't met them personally, but it seems like they're a pretty happy family. I know he likes to take his RV out.
How
on
about
breaks.
Alito, Thomas, and Roberts? You say Roberts, whatever. Maybe Coney Barrett. Well, she's a little young. You get them to retire, and then we just appoint all of Thomas's kids.
This is the thing. This is the actual
fair.
new rallying cry for a lot of progressive right now, which is like, no matter what, we have to have Joe Biden. If he's the one, we can't get off the ticket. If it has to be him, that's fine, because we cannot sacrifice the appointments. You'll see this ramp up going forward.
That they want.
Yeah. And again, like, it's not guaranteed that Justice will retire. It's just like, I think Clarence Thomas is in his 80s at this point. I do think that we should have a culture that allows for people to retire, bring new people in to keep the fight going.
All right. Let's see what we got here.
I think we had Josie the Libertarian on redhead Libertarian on time. And I think it was like, if you could pick a new Speaker of the House or something, who would it be? And she said Ron Paul, which Ron Paul's amazing. He's great. But also, like, he has worked hard. Perhaps he deserves to spend time with his family.
And how old is he? 80
He is
something?
definitely in his 80s.
Yeah, no, I would not recommend Ron Paul. We love and respect Dr. Paul for his great career, but yeah, Rand Paul maybe.
I'll take Rand. I'll take Massey.
But he's in the Senate, so
I do
yeah,
think it's a
Massey.
little crazy
There you
that
go.
our government seems to have like no end date. It's like you can just be in the government till you die. I think that's a problem.
You can be in some positions completely incapacitated and they just like Supreme Court justices
Or like the
Peter
president.
Ginsburg, how are you?
or a president. That's right.
Current president.
Leonardum says, keep fighting the good fight, Emperor. Ever since before the crew, your consistency is shining a mostly impartial light on the world. It's been very impactful on culture in the U.S. and the world. Everybody's now visibly starting to resist the absolute's calling. Well, all right. That's a Baldur's Gate reference, but yes. Jackson Hill says, did you stream the debate live? I couldn't find your stream. I suppose that Biden's performance last night was a cheap fake. We did stream it live on multiple platforms, and we had 142,311 peak concurrence on YouTube alone.
Nice.
And yeah, collectively with Rumble was pretty big, and X was massive. We had 800,000 viewers on Rumble, but they don't count concurrence. So I'm sorry, on X. X doesn't count concurrence the same way.
What happened to the Biden had a cold narrative that was starting to bubble?
It's still
up in
there.
the debate?
It's still there.
Yeah, never went
Okay,
anywhere.
good.
Which I saw an NBC article, I think it was NBC, that came out during the debate that was like, oh, Biden has a cold.
Yeah, every time I get a cold, I struggle to draw a clock.
All right. Breadbox says Vosh concedes the debate was a disaster for Biden and prepping his listeners for Trump 2024 victory. Destiny is acting like this may possibly blow over and everyone will forget about it, saying, we just need to drag his body across the finish line.
That's what Destiny said?
That's what they said back in 2020. Remember the Atlantic wrote, stay alive, Joe Biden. We just need your corporeal form. Yeah. Amazing. Corporeal
They're riding with Biden
form.
till they
Yeah,
die.
they love and respect
Literally.
him deeply.
Democrats are going to pass a law saying it's bodyist to require a body to be president, and as long as your immortal soul is capable, it'll be allowed. And then they're going to argue, but Christians, you believe in immortal souls, and then they're going to have a Ouija board, and they'll be like, Biden says we nuke Russia.
Yeah, we don't.
They're going to have him hooked up to a ventilator
Yeah,
and roll him in on a gurney.
blink twice for nuke Russia. That was 2. Well, 1 eye each count. Let's go. That one gamer says my car insurance went up by $300. Paid $150 before. Wow.
Yeah, car insurance is one of the things that I think when we're talking about this, it's not just the car, it's also the maintenance, the gas, and the insurance. It's and if you live anywhere that you need a car to get around. I mean, I grew up in a rural area. If you wanted to have a first job, you either need to, if you didn't live close enough to walk to wherever it was, you either were dependent on your parents or a sibling, or you just couldn't get a first job. Can you imagine if you just couldn't earn your first paycheck? Be crazy.
Gandalf the Based says, speaking for jobs, I have a bachelor's degree working on my master's and years of experience. I've had to turn down jobs because they didn't pay enough for me to scrape by. These were $60K jobs, FJB.
Yep. Kids are
It's
also
only
graduating
gonna get worse.
college without internships or even any low-level experience. So they're unexperienced, and then they try and get a job, and they can't make a living.
Man.
It's like
Sean-
the system's not working.
Yeah. Sean says, is it possible the cost of insurance in cars has to do with illegals buying used cars and driving uninsured? I'd like to see the hit and run stats since Biden has taken office and opened the borders. That's a good point. The hit and run stats.
Yeah, no, I've had my car ran into twice by Hispanic people that didn't have insurance.
Allison and I were driving in Inwood, West Virginia, last week, and some dude sped full speed right between cars, and we had to slam our brakes on, and it was the weirdest thing. Like I've never experienced that before. So I wonder,
Well, it's a lot easier. Like if you're an illegal immigrant, you commit any crime in America and you get deported, you're not worried about the repercussions from the crime. So it's totally different. That's why you can drive crazy, do crime. I mean,
You can just come back too. So
yeah.
Sneak back into the border.
All right, MF Damien says the OF, OnlyFans influencer ambition debacle is born of our culture. Broadly speaking, valuing notoriety and clout far above excellence and self-reliance, said.
pride.
So I think it's important to shame OnlyFans hookers. I think it's important to call them hookers. I think any woman who runs a sex-oriented OnlyFans should be shamed. And they got real mad at me when I called them hookers, but that's what they're doing. They're digital hookers. You're hookers. And the reason is they are ashamed of it. That's why they get really angry saying, how dare you call me a hooker? Not that there's anything wrong with being a hooker, but how dare you call me that? Because they're clearly ashamed of it. And they should be. We want to discourage this behavior because it's an attack on our society that destroys it. What the left wants to do is they want to turn it into a positive to get more people to do it, and largely because it will destroy society.
I think they prefer the term sex workers.
Their body, their choice, Tim.
Oh, they can do whatever they want. They're hookers, though. I didn't say hookers couldn't hook. I just said, you're a hooker. And they got mad.
I blame Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. That's where it
right.
started.
This is where it started.
The lack of morality in our country. It's what's created the depravity.
Yeah.
All right. Ray L says, I believe the Bidens have major dirt on prominent Dems, maybe the Epstein files. If Biden is forced out, he'll take out a lot of Dems with them and give Republicans a landslide. No, there's this video that we didn't get to. Did you see this one of Biden crying on stage?
No.
You didn't see this viral video
No.
of Biden crying on stage? Where is it? Here is it?
There have been so much stuff.
From
that came out.
when?
Oh, here it is. Yeah, you didn't see this one? There's no audio on this.
He's not
Oh.
supposed to be able to speak
that
under
I
the
see
seal.
in
Look at his face.
And even though he has faced unimaginable
sad.
tragedies, his optimism is undaunted.
That's crying, dude.
His strength is
He's crying, isn't he?
unshakable. His hope is undeterred.
He looks like he's crying. And I saw that with Jill screaming. His energy's not there. I'm wondering if it's the other way around. They're like, the reason they put his son in Hunter Biden was convicted is because they're like, you will do as you are told, Joe. You will march when we say march or else. I wonder if Joe's behind the scenes being like, I'm so tired. And they're like, shut your mouth. You chose this.
Yeah.
I honestly think you're right.
No, it is. It's like Happy Gilmore, where the guy, they're in the retirement home, and Ben Stiller was really mean to the old person. Like, keep crocheting.
Your
those
fingers
blankets.
hurt.
Like that.
Well, now your back's gonna hurt.
That's what it's like.
I genuinely feel bad for Joe Biden. Like, I could only imagine like my grandfather being like forced into a position like this and not being able to just like live at a retirement home, play bingo and dominoes with his buddies and like smoke a cigarette on the back porch. Like, Biden, I feel like, just deserves to go be on a beach or something. And like even Trump said last night at the debate, he's like, I would much rather be at one of my properties living my life than running for president. But our country is so horrible, and this is the worst president we've ever seen. And I feel bad for the guy. Jill is clearly behind it, and I think one of the main puppet masters.
She wants to have more White House weddings. What can we say?
crazy.
Yeah, they do. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been a wild and historic week. Thank you all so much for watching. We're, of course, back Monday, but next week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, we are off, and so should you. You should be as well, because it is the 4th of July. MAGA month begins in only a couple of days, and we are going to celebrate by watching beautiful explosions in the sky, eating cheeseburgers on the grill with our family, and that is the American way. Smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Become a member by going to timcast.com and clicking join us. You can follow me on X at Timcast, Instagram as well, and again, become a member, share the show. Morgan, do you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, thank you for having me. If you want to follow me, if you can spell my name, you can find me. It's Morgonn. And also you can check out all of my content on Turning Point USA as well.
Oh, I'm on Twitter at Lectern Leader. Lots of fun, lots of jokes. A shout out to the Thunderdome.
And your name's Morgan, but I always pronounce it Morgonn.
I know.
Because of
I
all
talked
the
about this with
ends.
Mary on PCC today. Everyone calls me Morgonn. It's my nickname.
Yeah, I was
It's
saying,
fine.
because I was like, we're on the show with Morgonn. Well, I'm Primetime 99, Pimp on a Blimp. Make sure to go to cashbrew.com, get some two-time grind, Primetime Stein, two-time grind coffee. I think I said that twice because it is 2 times the grind, 2 times the caffeine. It'll make you feel right. And guys, go support the Pimp on a Blimp. Go to YouTube and follow the Primetime with Alex Stein channel. We're doing crazy things. It's insane for the Ukraine, and you're gonna miss it if you don't tap in.
We got to film the commercial with you and Ian because we have the
Competing, yes.
Yeah, because you know the vote.
Yes,
the
a
vote Alex
graphene
and vote Ian.
dream. Yes, we need to do that and need to do a competition. And I
Yeah.
will smash Ian and squash him like a little bug that he is.
I have to watch this.
Yeah.
Coffee
Yeah, if-
wars are coming. It's crazy.
So we haven't formally launched it, but if you buy Primetime Grind 2 times caffeine and use promo code VOTEALEX, you get another bag of any kind for half off.
Ooh.
And if you buy Ian and use promo code VOTEIAN, you get another bag half off. And again, we haven't formally launched, but you are outselling on Vote Alex is outselling.
Oh, chat rats in the house. I love it. Thank you guys.
This has been a really great Friday debrief. I'm so glad that you guys could all join us here. I'm Hannah Claire Brimley. I'm a writer for SCNR.com at Scanner News. Follow Scanner News at Timcast News on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, HannahClaire.b, and I'm on Twitter at HannahClaireB. Thanks for everything you guys do. Thanks for watching along with the debate last night. Bye, Serge.
See ya.
We'll be back. We got clips throughout the weekend, and then we're back on Monday. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you all then.